battle for Middle Earth is about to begin.
So it begins.
Send these foul beasts into the abyss!
It's my power.
The great battle of our time.
Welcome to the Zorpazorp Battle Games in Middle Earth Livestream. In this series, we cast our gaze back in time to the roots of our beloved Middle Earth strategy battle game to explore the fortnightly magazine serial Battle Games in Middle Earth. Each episode, we will delve into a single issue, poring over a treasure trove of retro gaming, following in-depth painting guides, terrain tutorials, and some crazy battle reports, all with a modern twist so you guys can enjoy them in your games at home. With each installment, we'll also focus on a release of models that accompanied the magazine, following their journey from painting bench to tabletop, and then at the end of every live stream, they'll be randomly assigned to one of our loyal Patreons to continue their days of gaming abroad, spreading the gospel of Zorpazorp. So, in the immortal words of the magazine itself, let battle commence. Welcome to Zorpazorp Gaming, my name's Lachlan Linton Keane, and welcome to the very first Battle Games in Middle Earth live stream. That's right, we are live. I have all this brand new gear surrounding me. We've got a microphone, I see level, so I'm assuming you guys can hear me, and I'm pretty sure you guys can see me as well. This is hugely exciting. We have so much in store today, it's going to be really cool. For those of you who aren't familiar with the format, this is all about diving into the retro magazine series Battle Games in Middle Earth. Whoop. We're going to be checking out issue 1 every single episode or installment. We dive through one of these issues, and these are an absolute treasure trove of retro, old school gaming. They were kind of the birth of our beloved system, or happened alongside the birth in the early 2000s, and they've got some hectic stuff in there, some really insane stuff, some wild stuff as well. But yeah, it's going to be absolutely awesome. We've also got the live chat, so you guys are in here. I've got that over here on my right. I've got I'm like surrounded by screens right now. It's quite crazy. There's a lot to monitor, a lot going on. So let's just make sure you guys can hear me. Let's see. Well, yeah, let's. I think the latency in the chat is about 40 seconds, but drop some comments down in the chat if you guys can hear me and it's all going well. Essentially, we've got kind of two main components for today's sort of stream. Inside issue number 1, we've got kind of a bit of an overview of the system as it sort of stood in the early 2000s, and then of course with each of these magazines there was a release of models, and with issue number 1 we got a whole sprue of 12 Moria Goblins, so there's a lovely painting tutorial that we're going to be doing today, and vastly modifying it because the one in the book is, basically for children, so we're going to, we can do something a bit cool, make the goblins look pretty fantastic, and then we've got a little small battle report just to dip our toes into filming battle reports on the live streams, because of course this is issue 1. Oh, hello, we have a visitor. What can I do for you?
Are there 2 Keith Jenkins? Because they're like right below.
Oh, it's fine, just do one. Just do one. Sorry, we're in the middle of setting up the Patreon rewards, which we'll get into in just a sec. I didn't get it done in time, so, my faithful assistant is one room away preparing the magical Wheel of Fortune, which you guys will see soon, to assign out our Patreon rewards. But yeah, so we've got one release of models with each magazine, okay, cool. Sounds like we're lovely. Thumbs up for sight and sound. Fantastic. So, yeah, we've got one kind of release of models with each magazine. It's the Moria Goblins in issue number 1. We'll go through a painting tutorial with them. We'll go through an awesome little battle report where they face down Aragorn. Now, of course, because, you were building your collection in the early 2000s with each installment, you wouldn't have actually had Aragorn yet. So they give you these little cardboard standees. But, of course, this is 2020 and I have lots of Aragorns. So we'll be playing with a nice Aragorn today. But it's, yeah, it's a really fun way just to kind of explore some hobby stuff. There's lots of, like, throughout the whole series, there's something like, I think there's 92 of these battle games in Middle Earth magazines. They're absolutely nuts. There's, you know, painting tutorials, terrain tutorials, lots of different battle reports, small scale, big scale, kind of big siegey stuff. There's narrative stuff. So over the course of this series, it's going to be a really great way to get a nice kind of cross-section of lots of hobby stuff. Obviously, it's live, so I get to hang out with you guys in chat, which is really cool. We currently have... You're joking. We have 70 concurrent viewers right now. I must say, that's mildly intimidating. I was thinking we might get like 10 or 15. How am I going to keep track of this chat? It's never going to happen. There's 70 of you. Well, hello everyone in chat. Yes, goodness, that is absolutely nuts. I did not expect it. I wonder if we'll crack 100. We're floating around 60, high 60s and 70s now. We'll see. We'll see if we get another 30. Obviously, it's a bit of a crazy time for some parts around the world. We've chosen this live streaming time to kind of best fit the majority of the audience. Obviously, I think it's close to midnight now in the UK, so traditionally this stream would be a couple of hours earlier to help out the UK viewers and the Central Europe viewers, but it's Christmas, and it's a public holiday, and I'm really tired because I stayed up till like 4 AM getting the whole stream ready, so I kind of pushed it back a few hours, but we'll probably start at 8 AM Australian time, or Brisbane time, which is real Australian time. Sorry, Sydney and Melbourne, guys, it's a little unnecessary dig. So yeah, it will be a few hours earlier for you guys in Germany and Central Europe and London, because Andrew Cox in Bulgaria, it's like 2 AM right now. He's asleep unless his baby has woken him up, and if you are watching and Rosie's woken you up, I'm sorry, but also hi. But yeah, so for all you guys, we'll try and make it a bit earlier as well. So I think that's going to be the best time slot for everyone. Of course, all us Aussies are going to be at work on Monday morning, so you guys will have to watch it in the afternoon. You probably won't be able to watch it live, but most of you are in the US or Europe or the UK. So I think that's pretty much it. Let's have a look and see who we've got in the chat. We've got, it's 1 AM in Poland, 1 AM in Belgium. We've got, heaps of kind of regulars as well. This is really cool. It's gonna be a really awesome session. I don't know how long these streams are gonna be. I'm anticipating probably 2 or 3 hours, because we've got, maybe I've bitten off a little bit more than I can chew here, because I have like 12 unpainted goblins, so I don't know if I can speed paint a full set of 12, but we might get like 4 done and then just paint with half of them primed, but we'll see how we go. I'm optimistic at this point, so I imagine that it'll probably go for a good while, especially once we start doing battle reports and that sort of thing as well. We're starting relatively small. It's, obviously just me and single camera and all that kind of stuff, but once we get into some bigger stuff, we might have a look at doing some, big battle reports with getting some other guys in to come and, obviously at the moment it's just like me playing both sides because I'm on my own. But, when we've got some bigger battles, we'll get some friends of the channel in to come and appear on the live stream as well, which will be hilarious. Now, the final thing to talk about before we switch up and go get ready to have a look at this wonderful Battle Games in Middle Earth issue number 1 is the Patreon rewards. So, which I probably should have talked about first, but anyway, it's fine. So essentially, all of these models that I build in the live stream, today we've got 12 goblins, next week, or next fortnight, sorry, it's 8 high elves and 4 Numenorians, and then a couple of, sometimes it's metal heroes. All of these models that'll be done up, they will be assigned to members of our Patreon family, and those Patreons will become the sponsor of those models throughout the campaign. So we've got a big juicy wheel of fortune to randomly assign them to one of our Patreons later today. We'll do it at the end of the stream once they're all painted, and then whoever gets them, whoever wins them, becomes the kind of official sponsor through the campaign, and they can follow along, and it'll be like Barry's Goblins or Steve's Goblins. I don't know why I always use those 2 names, but the script is baked in up here. And then essentially they kind of get to barrack for their units, and we get to sort of see them kind of evolve, and we'll paint them up really nicely, and they'll be on beautiful little custom bases and kind of a real sort of awesome little piece of Zorpazorp history. And then once they finish their run, essentially it's a 90-issue magazine, but the models that come with each magazine, they sort of appear for between 10, 15, 20 issues for like battle reports and other scenarios, and then essentially once they've finished their run, those models will be retired, and then I will post them out to wherever the Patreon lives, anywhere in the world, free of charge. So it's kind of like, it is a giveaway. You don't get it straight away, but you also get to, kind of develop a bit of an attachment to your precious models and kind of follow their journey, and then eventually they get to go home and retire with with you, and then you can play with them yourself and send some photos in of the famous Zorpazorp Goblins, or whatever. So it should be a really fun format. So I think that's pretty much all the intro we need to do. What I'm going to do now is throw away to my Lockie needs to go and change the camera screen, and then we will come right back, and hopefully we'll have a lovely little top-down view, and we can check out all of the wonder in this magazine, which is going to be pretty fantastic. So here we go. We'll see you very soon. Doesn't have the screen ready. Good work, Lockie. All right, take two. Alright, so we are back and we have witnessed the magical power of camera trickery, and we're now over at the desk. One day I'll have multiple cameras and this will hopefully be, you know, a little bit more kind of fluent, but that's fine for now. So as we can see, this is issue number 1, which is pretty fantastic, and we've got a pretty gorgeous little front cover here. Let's get this microphone in close so you guys can still hear me pretty well. There we go, that sounds a little bit less echoey. So we've got, yeah, this gorgeous little volume. It is issue number 1. Now, of course, these do also come in a...
Yeah, I think they'll understand.
What's up?
She just rolled into her back.
Oh my god!
For the first time.
Wow!
I mean, onto the wooden floor. That's fine.
Cool, sorry, my baby has just rolled for the first time. The pleasures of live streaming. You miss all the wonderful things. Oh, cool, that's very exciting. So, we also have these wonderful binders, and this is the kind of beginning of the battle games in Middle-earth that we have here, which is the kind of lovely little intro manual with Sauron and Elendil, and Isildur. Elendil's dead at this point, and everyone else, all these models that we're kind of seeing here, we do get to accumulate over the 92 weeks, so I don't know about Sauron, actually. Maybe we'll do him as a special at the end, because, like, that'll be super fun. Sauron is absolutely awesome. So, you know, there's this lovely little intro, and then we've got, you know, all of the juicy things coming. But today, we are doing issue number 1, which is the Moria Goblins. And of course, fittingly, it has Aragorn, Gandalf, and 4 hobbits on the front cover, probably because they were a little bit more marketable, I think. But you'll start to see there are some, you know, really kind of interesting sort of design choices and really cool kind of retro elements that sort of speak to where the game was, you know, 20 years ago. So let's just make sure that we're still all happy here. We've got chat. Oh, 10 more to 100. We're on 97 concurrent people, which is fantastic. Ah, switch. Andrew Lemare. Andy, how are you, man? Switch from phone to laptop so I can join the chat. Absolutely fantastic. 74 goblins in a week. Yeah, some guys have been working. There's a few Moria players in the chat, it seems, which is pretty cool. I have to say, this is like a bit of a skill, interacting with you guys on the chat, and also, like, you know, doing stuff here. I might need to move my chat screen in future live streams because it's very far away from where I'm filming right now. But that's quite cool. 3 to go. Hey, Michael Bacan's here, Buck and Duck, one of our long-term Patreons. So we've got quite a few of the Patreons and long-term commenters hanging out in the chat, which is really cool. Geez, it's absolutely super active, and I'm losing track of it already. So, let's dive in, and we're going to have a look at the wonderful content of the first issue of Battle Games in Middle-earth. See, if I was, like, really prepared, I could have, like, all sorts of audio stings queued up on my macros, but, you know, let's wait till, like, podcast number 5 for that stuff. So, welcome to the lands of Middle-earth. Whether you are a seasoned campaigner or a complete novice, Battle Games in Middle-earth will teach you all you need to know about painting, modeling, and gaming in the mysterious world of Middle-earth. So, we've got some pretty fantastic-looking tables there off the bat. Look at that green sheet of static grass. Can you guys see that there? It's some wild terrain, but we'll be playing on stuff slightly better than that. Not that much better this week because I need to keep it small for this table. But yeah, it's the old golf green. And I think what we can see there in that picture is actually the contents of the Fellowship of the Ring starter set, which of course would have been coming out alongside this, or sort of, I think these began release in 2002, so that would have been already out. That was effectively the first launch along with the Fellowship range of products. So in our table of contents, we can see that we've got a bit of some fluff, some lore, some cool things which we'll dive into. We do a little bit of an exploration of the rules, and we're going to be using some of those older rules when we get to our battle report today, because the retro rules are pretty fun, like Fight 6 Elf Warriors and all sorts of fun stuff. But we will kind of balance it a little bit and bring a few different things in so that it's not, you know, we're not playing with a ridiculously simplified, boring rule system. Then, of course, we've got a scenario to play with our goblins and Aragorn, and then we've got a painting workshop and the modeling workshop that they have in this issue. Well, we'll see when we get there. It's a little lackluster, so we won't be attempting that. So straight off the bat, we've got a lovely little piece here with our 9 members of the Fellowship. Merry and Pippin don't deserve a full frame, so they've been plumped down together. Obviously, I think that was for formatting reasons. And a gorgeous little map here. A dark time has descended upon the lands of Middle-earth. The evil Lord Sauron has amassed a huge army of vile orcs, which he threatens to enslave all of the free peoples of Middle-earth. Yet, without the One Ring, the source of his power, Sauron remains vulnerable. Fate has placed the One Ring in the unlikely hands of Frodo Baggins, a home-loving hobbit from the Shire. Once the true nature of the ring is discovered, Frodo sets off for the dark land of Mordor to destroy the ring in the only way possible, by casting it into the fires of Mount Doom in which it was forged. and then accompanying him is the Fellowship. So there's actually a lot of really kind of cool, clunky, weird scenarios in these kind of supplements, basically because, I mean, it's a 92-issue fortnightly supplement. So the guys who made this, I mean, it was obviously developed by Rick Priestley and all of the kind of early GW guys, but it was published and kind of run by D.A. Agostini. But filling that kind of content is tricky. So some of the content is like hit and miss because they're just trying to create stuff to fill it out. And some of it is absolutely amazing. I'm pretty sure there's actually a Crack of Doom scenario where we've got Frodo and Gollum and Sam, and they're wrestling about all over the place. There's some really cool stuff coming up. But we're going to dive into having a little expose on Aragorn to start with. Now, I find this interesting. They focus quite heavily on Aragorn this issue, but Aragorn isn't the model you get until I think issue 5. You get some goblins, but Aragorn's the moneymaker. He's the one who brings in all the people. And I mean, we won't read through all of this because I'm sure we all know who Aragorn is, but it's kind of fun to check out some of the older thoughts. After guiding the hobbits from the peril of the village of Bree, Aragorn is forced into battle against the evil ringwraiths at the summit of Weathertop, and that is another awesome scenario. I think it's like, it's coming up pretty soon, I think, in a few live streams, and I'll get out my gorgeous, I've got the actual Forge World Weathertop, and what we might do, even though it's not in the book, or it might be in the book, I don't know, I'll have to check. We'll do like a kind of painting modeling guide on that like lovely Forge World model, and then we'll play the game with the ringwraiths and Aragorn and that sort of stuff. It's a really awesome scene. And then we've got some stuff on the plains of Rohan after the death of Boromir, the breaking of the Fellowship. Aragorn rallies the dejected Legolas and Gimli. They were a bit sad, were they? Okay. And they set out in search of Merry and Pippin to rescue them from the clutches of Sauron's evil minions. There is like so much Rohan and Isengard content. It's absolutely awesome. It's actually really great to be launching this now right alongside War in Rohan, because there's like the first kind of big chunk of the book, of the series. There's like, some Last Alliance-y themed stuff because that's the models that come out first, but then it launches straight into Two Towers models, and so we get lots of really cool Two Towers scenarios. And then we have the battle for Helm's Deep, and we can see some absolutely awesome old school terrain here. That's the old Citadel fortress, I think, which is of course even the Games Workshop Helm's Deep walls weren't even out yet. I do have those, so we could certainly use those, because there are some Helm's Deep kind of action scenes and that sort of thing. In fact, Aragorn is merely wounded. Oh, of course, we've skipped the entire thing about the Warg attack, but that's fine. After recovering his strength, he makes his way to Helm's Deep, where he is reunited with Legolas, Gimli, and Gandalf. During a massive siege, the forces of good are assaulted by 10,000 Uruk-hai. I actually believe it was tens of thousands of Uruk-hai, but that's fine. Not singular 10,000. We'll let it slide. Aragorn assailed by commanding where the hell have I lost my place? Aragorn's desperate last charge against the Uruk-hai, so that the women and children may escape through the subterranean tunnels. Aragorn once again grieves at the huge loss of life, but his duty, as ever, comes first. They're really kind of ramping up this Aragorn character. He's a good lad. We like him. And then we get into getting started. Now, this is where we kind of start to go through the playing of the game, and there's you need dice, you need a tape measure. It's the classic first page of every rulebook. I won't insult your intelligence too much by diving into that. A pen or a pencil is very important, apparently. And then we have our little scenario. Now, they've done this in a weird order. They kind of encourage you to just pick the models up out of the box, or out of the plastic sleeve, and start playing. But we're going to be painting first, so we're going to come back to our Goblin ambush scenario. Now, here are the standees that I was talking about earlier. So these are like, and this is the great thing about this copy, is it's actually like mint condition, unpressed. So these are like little cardboard standees that you can cut out and fold up, and they release these to kind of, oh my god, we just hit 100 concurrent. Woo! 100 subscribers! There you go, yeah, Killy, one of our long-time commenters, Killy, is saying that there is a scratch-built Weathertop guide in one of the issues. So there we go. We could, hopefully it's before the Ringwraith one, otherwise we can use my Forge World one, or we could just do both. Bit of a compare and contrast, make it a bit of a terrain-themed live stream. Who knows? All the things we can do. All the things. So yeah, these are the standees. Obviously, we probably won't be using them because we have the wonder of 20 years worth of model collection at our fingertips, particularly for the Lord of the Rings stuff, which is what this is all about. We won't see any Hobbit stuff in this. Obviously, it finished in 2003. And then we have a little how to play section. Now, we will dive into this a little bit because it's quite funny to see some of the differences in the way that the game has kind of evolved, right? Obviously, we won't be seeing any heroic strike in here. In fact, this issue doesn't even dive into might points at all. Aragorn is simply a 3 wound, 3 attack model. In fact, there's not even a wound chart this early in the game. It's essentially, you know, because all we have so far that exists in the game is Aragorn and goblins, so they break it down fairly simply, which is going to be fun. We're going to add a few little bits and pieces just to keep it more interesting, but it's good fun. So we've got lots of action here. There's, you know, the move phase is all the same. Goblins move 5, Aragorn moves 6. There's nothing crazy here. They don't do in the way rolls yet. We might bring those in, because otherwise it'll be a bit hard on Aragorn, just getting peppered with arrows. There's no shooting penalty, of course. You can move half and still shoot without a -1. And then the fighting is kind of a lot more simplistic. It's just, yeah, whoever rolls higher, if Aragorn rolls higher, he wins, because obviously they're not teaching you about fight value or profiles yet. And then Aragorn has like a value that he just has to roll to kill them, which I think is 3, or it might be 4. Maybe it's 5. So, Moria Goblins always need a 5 to score a wound on Aragorn, which is reflective, right, because they're strength 3, and Aragorn will be D5, because this is the ranger profile, so that's still accurate. And then Aragorn, he needs to remove goblins on a 4+, so let's think that out. So Aragorn is strength 4, and all the goblins would be in armor, so some of them would have shields, so technically that's not quite right. Maybe he's got Anduril, which he doesn't, but anyway, it's fine. We'll roll with it, and then yeah. So it's pretty simple rules wise. And now we have, I guess, what is going to be the first kind of real section. Now I've rambled on through the book, which is we're going to dive into some painting tutorials. So as you can see, we have the preparing your models section. Now I have already done that, because who wants to watch me clipping out 12 Moria Goblins and you know, sort of shaving them off. Now let's call a spade a spade. These are the first models of the range. In fact, let me bring them over and you can see what I'm talking about. So these are the first models of the range, so yes, I mean, have they aged the best? Probably not. Come on, camera focus, there we go. But, like, you know, they're still pretty solid. Like, they're not too bad. Now, you'll notice these gorgeous little Moria Goblins here are sitting on some pretty wonderful bases, hashtag plug. These are the Horselord Prairie bases, which sounds sort of a bit weird, from ZorpazorpGaming.com, Zorpazorp.com, should know my own web address. And what I'm going to do is, because they're a lovely shale composite base, essentially what we're going to do is just not put any grass tufts down, and they're going to look really lovely and rocky and like some kind of Moria slopes, which should be really cool. So I've got 12 of these bad boys. They're all primed, they're all glued up. The only kind of trick to remember when you're using bases like this is the bases are resin, the models are plastic, so if you just glue super glue to them, it's not going to create a kind of chemical contact bond like melting plastic to plastic would do. So you need to pin these models. So last night I drilled out the feet of the goblins, and I grabbed myself a pin vise. Here's one I prepared earlier. So you need to grab yourself a pin vise. This is just the Citadel GW one, which is good quality. The drill bits are reasonable quality from them as well. And then I just have a whole bunch of really shitty China drill bits, which you shouldn't buy because they're garbage and they blunt and they blah blah blah. And then to glue them to glue the models to the bases, once you've drilled out those feet and drilled out the base and put some brass rod between them, I just use some cyanoacrylate superglue. I like to use F-gel or Loctite because it's a gel consistency. It makes it a little easier to apply. Now, aside from that, there's not much other preparation that you need to do. Obviously, just all the classic stuff, you know, trimming the sprue lines and all that kind of business in before we paint them. And I realize I've missed all of them because I was doing this at 4 AM last night to get it ready for the stream. But as you can see, once they're pinned, like, you know, they're not coming off those bases unless you throw them across the floor. Now you could pin both feet. I just pinned one, but yeah, they look really impressive on these little bases. And there's the full set of 12. There's some really nice variations, some high prow ones, which allow you to have a few goblins kind of rearing up. So we'll have a look at those in a sec. Now, I am priming in black today because, well, I mean, for starters, we're going to be following this painting tutorial here, quote-unquote following. Not really. It's very simple. Let's have a look at what they suggest, and then we'll have a look at what Lockie's going to do instead. So obviously you got some paints with these magazines as well. We've got a very limited selection, because I think you only got maybe 3 paints in this issue, which was like the green, the silver, and the black. So you'd prime the model black, you'd paint the face green, you'd paint the armor silver, and you'd be on your way. The old school paints that they're using are, of course, Chaos Black, Goblin Green, and I think would it have been Chainmail? Let's have a look. Yes, Chainmail, which was an absolute workhorse Games Workshop paint. We're gonna be interchanging those with our own little painting scheme. And what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna swing myself off camera for just a sec, and then we are going to come right back, and I'll set up my painting station, and we can crack on with painting these goblins. Let's get to it. Alright, we are back, and you can see we have got the painting table all set to go. Now, we're off to a fantastic start, because I'm already missing one goblin. I don't know where he is, he must be down in the workshop, so he's going to get a touch-up off-screen. Like I said, I'm not sure how many of these gobos we're actually going to get done. Hey, let me know what you guys think of the audio there, because I'm a little bit far away from my microphone now, and it's not a condenser, so just let me know if that's getting a little too echoey. But we've got a wonderful selection here. Let's see who's missing. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Bowmen. We've got 1, 2, 3... Aha! We are missing a sword bro. Now, I had him just before, didn't I? No, I don't know. Okay, well, we're one bro down. It's one of the walking guys who. Oh, I know where he is. I had him earlier this morning. Okay, so we have 11 goblins. We will be painting 12, and as you can see, we've got a little bit more of a complicated painting setup than the wonderful. Audio's fine. Thank you, boys. Thank you very much. Also, shout out to Andrew Lemaire, who's apparently watching on with Seb, which is super cute. So thank you. Hi guys, lovely to see you. Lovely for you to see me. we've got a lovely selection of paints here. We're going to be doing a scheme that's a little bit more intensive, a little bit more complicated than the three-colour, the tri-colour application. I mean, that'd be tournament legal, right? No, that's not how it works. I think Games Workshop, it's 3 colours minimum, but it also has to be shaded and highlighted. So, what I like to do when I'm breaking down my... Man, we're flying by the seat of our pants today. What I like to do when I'm breaking down a paint scheme is kind of lay out a little label system, break down the model into regions. Now, these guys are really simple, which is fantastic. Full disclosure, I've never painted them before, so in before we accidentally paint a whole bunch of cloth metal or something like that. But the main regions are, obviously they're gobbos, so they've got skin tone. They've got some crazy little eyes on a few models, which we'll do at the very end. But the bulk of the colour work is metal and cloth. So... In the Games Workshop reference, which I can show you here because I'm actually that organised, look at this. How about that for a little bit of camera magic, professionalism? So you can see there that it's got, they've got like that red cloth look, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think it's a bit like, I don't know, it looks sort of like pirates or something. I kind of wanted to go for a lot more of the kind of earthen tones and make stuff a lot more natural. So I do have some reds so that we can have a little bit of variation, but they're going to be a bit darker. And then we do have a brown cloth scheme. So we've got eyes, skin tone, our metal, 2 variations on the cloth, and then we've got some colours put aside for our basing, of course, which we're going to be able to hit using some really kind of easy, simple methods to make it look really awesome. And this colour scheme that I'm using is actually the exact same colour scheme that you would use to paint the Helm's Deep, the Mountain Stronghold. The Mountain Stronghold bases. So you guys can apply it, which is our other product in the basing range, which is, Agrax Earthshade, man. It looks absolutely fantastic. And then the final thing we've got is some teeth. Now, we're going to be using a combination of different colours and brands today. I think we do have one contrast paint somewhere in there. Yeah, Skeleton Horde for the teeth. And then, obviously, it's mostly Citadel with a little bit of Vallejo mixed in. When this video is finished, because this will upload to YouTube, of course, when this video is all ready to go, in the description... and I could have put it in beforehand, I didn't think about it. I will put the conversion table so you can fly back and forth between different schemes. Now, in terms of wet palette, if you guys don't use a wet palette, use one. Super simple. This is just parchment paper or baking paper, as we call it in Australia. It's technically slightly different stuff, but whatever. With a sodden cloth, bit of water in the bottom. You can sort of actually see it there. It's quite sodden. And that creates, a lovely little film, and then when we're taking paint out, particularly when we're using Vallejo, we can put it on the palette. Now, I mean, it's all about thinning your paints, right? Now, with these models, because they're older and they've got so much less detail, it is important that we do thin to an extent, but I rarely actually thin by mixing water or Lamy and medium. Often with a lot of paints, unless it's a really gloopy, thick paint that I know is particularly gloopy, like, let's see if we've got, like, the Dark Angels Green, the new one, Caliban Green, is really thick, so I usually thin that a little bit, but these are pretty good. We'll see as we get there. The Flash Gets Yellow might be too thick, but again, that's for eye work, so that's probably fine. Often, I just like to put paint on the palette and then kind of thin it by pulling it and drawing it to kind of reduce the layer size. Now, I've got a collection of brushes here, which I just grabbed a handful out of the painting drawer, so in before I have to run off back to my painting desk and grab a particular brush. Now, let's have some live interaction. Okay, guys, who do we want to start with? Now, this is going to be boring for us for about 40 seconds. Oh, look at that. Thanks, Mandalore. He's thrown a link to the conversion chart in the chat for anyone who wants to kind of fly back and forth. I think it was just like, Daka from the old forums. Now, what do we want to see first? Let's have some candidates. This guy looks pretty cool for our first one. I think we will batch paint these to an extent. He's pretty badass. We'll have him as candidate 1. We'll have this little nuggety Spearman. He's pretty cool. And then one of these bow guys looks pretty badass. Look at him. He's pretty sick. What about this guy? We've got a flesh tone guy, a helmet guy. Yeah, let's vote for him. Alright, what do we want, people? Start with the goblin with the sword with the most seductive face. Yeah, there are a few interesting face sculpts, I have to say, with this particular set of sculpts. One. I'm seeing lots of votes for this little lad. Oh, here we go. I'll put them in order so you guys can. I dropped him. Hey, look, see, told you, they don't break. Alright, that's the order. 1, 2, 3. I'm seeing lots of 1s. Is he the seductive face one? He's like the Yeah, I think this particular guy, well, I mean, that's pretty clear. I haven't seen a single vote for anyone else but that guy. Look at that, I'm doing community engagement. I know how to live stream. We've got, this face here is kind of mimicking that famous lad from the, you know, the goblin who, like, as they kind of run through the door and then he looks at the camera. Oh no, it's when the goblins are encircling the fellowship in Moria and he does that kind of, pulls his face back and snarls and his eyes do that weird, like, cat thing where they close from the sides or something. This guy, I'm pretty sure, is pretty heavily influenced by him. So, this is going to be our prototype. Now let's have a look at the model. We want to check out these zones. Obviously we've got steel there on all the armor. We've got our face, which is nice because this is a helmetless fellow. So we've got, yeah, lots of armor there, and that looks like that's all cloth. Now it's handy to kind of also have your references of other painted models. I'm just looking over the Games Workshop one there to kind of help me identify the regions of the model. Yeah, so that's a bit of green. So there's lots of different techniques in terms of order of painting. I just sort of shoot from the hip most of the time. There are some exponents that of the paint the way you dress method, which is like you paint all the skin tone first. It's like layers, right? You'd be naked and then you pull clothes on, so you paint the lower layers, and the layers that are on the top you're finishing last, which make a lot of sense. But when I do that, I always accidentally paint the face. So what I like to do is go for the area that's like largest. So we're going to start with our metal region. Now we've got lead Belcher to start off with, which is our replicant of Chainmail. Now this guy is a bit thick and a bit gloopy, so you know you do need to thin him to an extent. But if you mix Lamy and Medium in with metallics, occasionally it messes up the metallic flake concentration and it gets all weird. So this is a perfect example. That's going to be my application brush, so let's grab a loading brush that I'm not too worried about. There we go, that'll do. So I'll, you know, take a bit of paint out, and obviously this is Citadel, not Vallejo, so I actually have to use a brush for this. And I'll dump it on the palette. Oh, look at me go! I don't even have paper towel prepared. Awesome. All over it. So we're going to grab some lead Belcher, and we want to load that up pretty thinly. Pretty thinly. I can see myself getting none of these guys painted on this stream. This is going to be mental. So we're loading in, and what we want to do is, now, if we think about this iron, this kind of corroded metal, it's going to be pretty messed up. Now, a lot of techniques for painting this stuff will often kind of just leave it black, dry brush it, edge highlight it, all that kind of stuff. What I'm actually going to do is something a little bit more complicated that looks kind of has a better finished result. Oh, hey, oh, look at that. Larissa must be watching the stream. She just brought me some paper towel or some tissue. What a legend. Either that or she has heard me kind of yelling through the walls, because they're not particularly thick. So we're just going to apply this lead Belcher all over the metal regions, getting complete coverage. I mean, don't stress if it is a bit kind of crap, because we are going to be doing a fair bit of work to this, a fair bit of kind of aging and all that kind of stuff. But we want to get that as, sort of as everywhere as we can. It's got a cool little shield here. They got lots of spiky bits. Lots of spiky bits. In fairness, I'm probably being a little bit more delicate than I need to be, because this is the first layer, right? So I can just kind of put this everywhere, because we're going to be painting over everything else. Let's throw a little bit on his blade. Hey lads in the chat, how is the autofocus going? Because I can't really watch the screen and paint at the same time. Is it chasing well? Is the background flying in focus instead of the model and that sort of thing? Obviously, we're shooting on the new gear for all of this. And the reason, I mean, what is it? It's the... I can't see my computer. It's the something of December. I think it's the 30th, not the 31st. I don't think it's Christmas Eve yet. And it is... yes, a bit late in the year. I was hoping to have all of this kind of filmed. All of this kind of... Oh, someone's saying it's not great, to be honest. So obviously it's chasing a little bit... Oh, oh, here we go. We've got contrasting opinions. Autofocus is great. Okay. Perhaps they're talking about different things. So good. Autofocus is working. So it's a little later than I was hoping for the live stream. You know, I wanted to kind of get this done at the beginning of December, but there were just so many delays. My capture card didn't arrive. There was, yeah, lots of little setbacks that I won't kind of rattle off, but I'm glad that we got it done in 2019, and now, from now on, all of the kind of infrastructure is there, so we should be, you know, pretty good to go. Just make sure when you're painting these greaves that you don't accidentally get the cloth layers. I mean, well, it's not actually a huge deal if you do, because we haven't done the cloth yet, but just in terms of differentiating them, the back line is a little bit hard to see where that kind of final edge is, so you've got to just be a little bit on your game. I would advise not painting these while filming a live stream. That's probably the best advice I can give you, because being far away from the models makes it sort of challenging. Yes, we want to make sure that we do a good job for our Patreon, but we also don't want to take 50 years for you guys watching at home. Yeah, we should be able to bang these out now. Basically every fortnight, kind of smash them through, and get them kind of really regular, which is going to be really exciting. For next fortnight, Ardor Unleashed is going to be the weekend before, so that's going to be fun. We're going to probably be able to have a bit of a time. We'll see what we do. We could delay it one day and do it on a Tuesday, because I'll still be dealing with Ardor Unleashed pack up on that Monday. Yes, that's probably what's going to happen, because I'll be packing up the venue. But I'll keep you guys up to date with that one. Obviously, the reason I've picked this time is so that we can have not just the time, but also so that it appears on Sunday for a lot of you viewers, which I think is good. Do you guys find this time is a little bit... Thumb details excellent, not sure what that flower pot you're painting is meant to be. Yes, the Goblin models are a little bit like that, aren't they, Adrian? Yeah, so, yeah, if we move this like 2 hours earlier as a regular time slot, would that be useful to you guys? I think so. I think it'd be a bit better then, because it's a bit late for some of you lads. But in terms of the day as well, it being Sunday night, it's better. I mean, it could... yeah, I have to have filmed during the week. I'm not going to get away with filming on a weekend. The spouse will murder me. Let's get a little bit more of that silver and hit this central torso. There we go, that's all cloth. Yeah, so, you know, it'd probably be ideal to do this on Saturday night, Sunday morning, but unfortunately, this is the time zone we have to deal with at the moment. We've got a little greave up there on his arm. Okay, so let's have a look and see if we've missed any regions. We've got, I mean, yeah, I'm painting with shields on, right, which is always kind of a slight gamble. But that's mainly because, like, who cares? You know, these are grimy goblins. We can just leave that area behind the shield really dark and kind of let that just do its work. So that is, I think, all of the metal. We've got a little bit of that greave on that arm. Alright, that should be all our metal work. Now, is that skin tone? Yeah, nothing like painting models you've never painted before live on stream. Good work, Lucky. I think that's all our lead belcher. So, our lead belcher is finished for now for this model, but what we might do is paint a couple at a time so that we can show the difference. So I'll just quickly whiz through. We'll go for this. Let's go for some helmeted dudes. We got a helmeted spearman. Where'd our supreme choices go? There we go. So we'll smash through this little spearman. Now this guy's a bit different because he's got some more solid plate armor, which doesn't affect anything right now. Look at that, putting armor all over the cloth. Which doesn't affect anything right now, but it will affect the way that we weather these models. Same with, you know, these kind of big flat chunks on his helmet. They're going to be a little bit more work to make them look really awesome, and we'll but it also gives us an opportunity to really show off some cool kind of weathering stuff. And this guy's also got a little bit of chainmail. Now when we're doing the chainmail, it's just that classic technique. We will get that sort of central torso there. We'll just drag that across, leaving the black in the recesses. We are going to wash this, of course, so don't stress if it accidentally does go. If you dig a little greedily, what is it? If you paint too greedily and too deep, and it goes into the recessed detail of the chainmail, that's fine. Am I even keeping this in focus? Yeah, I think I am. This is actually a better painting position for filming, for filming and painting at the same time than when I film my painting tutorials. It's because, of course, we're not completely top down here. I'm using a different tripod, whereas I like to be top down, but I might adapt this sort of method. Do you guys like this angle? Yeah, so we accidentally paint too deep in the chainmail, a Balrog might just burst onto the table. Yeah, do you guys find this angle is fairly solid for painting and things? Because maybe I should adapt and use this, because obviously I haven't done any new painting tutorials with the new camera. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. I get myself on about 5 tangents a minute as I kind of ramble along. Yeah, so all the new gear is here. That was part of the delay in getting the new camera. So we're shooting on a brand new camera. We're shooting on, you know, brand new software. In terms of mixing, learning my way around the software was really interesting. You know, there's lots of free options like OBS, but I decided to go for something a little more rigorous so that we could do some fancy stuff. So we're using vMix, for those of you who know anything about streaming, which is a good little system. I really quite like it. It's got a very simple kind of user interface. It looks like something from the 90s, but it's really useful. It's connecting with YouTube well. It seems to be going pretty well, and it gives me all the kind of classic vision switch elements, which is really awesome. Why not dry brush, Tom is asking. So the reason I'm not dry brushing is because well, we'll see, essentially. I'm just building up a little bit more of a complex weathering profile down the line using some typhus corrosion and some shades, and I want the recessed detail that is going to fall away to corroded, I want that to have some silvery glimmer underneath it, as opposed to just doing the dry brush and then the highlight. Yeah, that's kind of like the classic Goblin look, but I just thought I'd show you guys something a little different. Oh, I've missed a Grieve! I've missed a Grieve. Alright, there we go. I think we're getting there. When you're painting helmets, just make sure you get the steel kind of up underneath the visor, because often you'll accidentally leave that black. And it's not too bad because it just looks like shadow, but you will kind of notice it. Now, we've got loincloth around the center, and it looks like there's no armor there except that chainmail hanging over, so that is Spearman number 3, and I guarantee you we're not going to be painting more than 3 models today, because this is pretty lengthy. And now we've got the Bowmen. Now, this Bowman here, he has a few different pieces. All of the armor is sort of subtly different. Like there's, for this guy, he's got like some kind of cool shoulder pads that jut out over the top of the cloth. He spent a bit of time in the 90s. So he's got some shoulder pads here, whereas the other guys don't. Essentially, it's just like a varying quantity of spiky bits, and then obviously he's got the quiver as well. But yeah, Michael Buchan says this is the best angle he's ever seen, which is high praise. So I'm glad. This particular Gobbo also has a really nice set of. Now, I always get Greaves and Vambraces confused. I'm pretty sure the ones on the legs are Greaves. Correct me if I'm wrong in the stream. I'm sure Vambraces are on the arms, but I don't know if Greaves are an arm variant, or they are the ones that go on the legs. But anyway, the leg armor that goes on the shins, this particular Bowman's got some really nice sort of spiky stuff. So just kind of make sure you get a nice coverage on those. And these shin pads, we're calling them now, until I'm advised otherwise, they kind of wrap around his calves a little bit more before we hit the strapping. Alright, a little bit here on the back. Again, this is just a torso piece and the shoulder pads. There's no kind of a wrap around, it just changes the cloth. I mean, they're not particularly well armored, right? And that's the other great thing is if you do miss a bit of metal, it just looks like it's messed up, you know, it just looks like it's a deliberate chunky kind of thing. Now these, yes, it looks like the archers actually have a slightly different, yeah, cool, leg armor. See, I thought they were Greaves with the leg armor. Haven't played RPGs in a while. So this, I've just painted this metal kind of instinctively here, but that is probably actually a leather vambrace because he's an archer. So they've got a slightly different element there as well. So, excepting the entire half of this leg that I missed, just quickly grab that. Boom, boom, boom. What's our concurrent users at now? 94! Cool, we're still sitting up there. I thought, you know, maybe half an hour in. I don't even know how long we've been streaming. That can't be right. We haven't been streaming for an hour, have we? Is that... What's the time? Far out. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to be streaming for several hours quite easily. Goodness me. Yeah, so obviously there are some other spiky bits which I have neglected, which are the weapons. So here on our bow, we've got some kind of, you know, these orcs, they like to run up and whack people with their spikes. I think it's just the one on that bow, which is interesting, a little extra spike there. There's no steel on the quiver, so I think that's him done. And I got the spear, and I got the sword. So here are our lads. They're looking pretty delicious. We've got 1, 2, 3, and that's just with our chainmail down. Now remember to wash out your brush, Lucky. I really, yeah, it's, what do they call it? It's not chainmail, it's lead belcher. I quite like lead belcher. It's chainmail was sort of a big workhorse for me in the old days, and I really do like chainmail. You just got to be careful because it is quite thick and you don't want to gloop it up. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to build that grime profile, and we're going to do that using 2 paints, primarily Typhus Corrosion, which is one of the Citadel technical paints, and we're going to apply that in. We're gonna apply that in a kind of unique way, which some of you guys might have seen before if you've watched some of my Star Wars Legion painting tutorials, is we're going to blend that with some washes. Now, the way that Typhus Corrosion works is it's a grit, right? It's a really textured kind of paint, and as you apply it with the brush, it leaves this stream of grit, but it also creates quite a hard edge when you're applying it, and I like to blend that out with a bit of washes to kind of make it more gradual. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create essentially a wet working surface with Nuln Oil. I'm also going to shake the crap out of this. Games Workshop washes you need to absolutely obliterate with shaking power, because they do get quite glossy if the pigment elements separate. So I'm just going to grab my Nuln Oil here, and I'm just going to throw that pretty liberally all over the metal. And I think, yeah, so this is pure Nuln Oil. I haven't thinned it down with Lamy and Medium at all. And you can see that's really nicely flowing into all that recessed detail. How good is Nuln Oil? I like, you know, I've painted with Nuln Oil thousands of times. Every time I put it on a model, I'm like, holy shit, man, I could win golden diamonds. Yeah, it's so good. So we'll get it, you know, I'm applying it pretty liberally as well. Make sure you get the back of the shield. I always leave that behind. It's nice though, because the back of the shield is just metal on these goblins, not like bloody Rohan. We got to do wood paneling behind their arms. So we've got all the legs, we've got all the bits. Okay, now, I'm not going to let this dry. Instead, grabbing a different brush, and more importantly, a brush I'm not too worried about, because if you kind of long-term use Typhus Corrosion, you can ruin your brushes if you forget to wash them out. I'm going to grab some Typhus. I've got a fairly kind of thick element here, and then applying it over the wet Nuln Oil. You can see that's gone on pretty thick, and these are sort of like a contrast paint in that they will separate and you'll see some of that silver coming through, but it is also pretty brown. We're going to really grime up a lot of this armor. You can basically just change, like, you know, move it around a fair bit when it's on there if you want it to be particularly grimier. Like his blade, I'm not going to rust up too much because he'd be chopping stuff, so that will be freshly kind of chumping all the rust and corrosion and grime off. Because I'm sure, even though he might not get much fighting, he might not see many members of the Fellowship coming through Moria. He definitely, you know, would be stabbing his own little lads. He'd be chopping up food, so there'd be a lot less grime on the blade, but the armor, which is kind of clinking and getting all messed up, we're definitely going to grime that up. So there we can see that's getting really filthy now. Oh, I've missed his inner torso. Definitely want some grime on that. So that's getting absolutely filthy. So we'll swap to our other guys. Now, look at the chaos that's being unleashed on this workbench. 2 paints open at the same time. Oh, and they're both shades. Alright, let's grab, well, not shades per se, but very high flow paints. I'm just going to slather Nuln Oil all over the armor. Ugh, Gonna need to get some new null oil soon. There we go. Get it on those spiky bits. So many spiky bits on these models. When PJ was like, you know, commissioning them, getting them PJ approved, was just like, add more spiky bits. Alright, so that's our null oil shade layer that we can work down from. And then we grab ourselves some more typhus. We're going to drop that straight in over the top of all the null oil. Really grime up that steel. Well, I guess it'd probably be banded iron, really. Now, it is important that this only goes on the iron, or the metal, because it will leave a texture, and you don't want that on like a smooth fabric surface, because it'll be really obvious that it's spilled. And you'll see I am kind of applying it quite thickly. I sort of do like a little pass where I drop it in and get it sort of everywhere, and it sort of thins out because of the wash. But then I'll come back and go, you know what, I want a bit more there, I want a bit more there. And that allows kind of different concentrations of the typhus corrosion to really kind of pool in different areas and create some really nice variation. This helmet guy, I love these helmets. Honestly, I would like have an army of the goblins with just helmets. They look freaking awesome. Yeah, that looks really cool. Alright, so we're getting that in, Now, as we can, as I talked about earlier, there's these kind of bigger flat panels on this guy. So we want to get a fair bit of null oil on them, which creates, you know, a nice kind of profile of color and shade going on. Oh, don't forget the spear tip. Again, I won't corrode it too much, so it's important to get a decent concentration of null oil. That will be the end of my null oil now, so I will wash that brush up while I remember. Now we come back in with our typhus, and I'm going to just drop a whole bunch of that right on the flat panel, but I'm not covering the entire panel. See how I'm leaving a break line? I'm just putting some real spots of corrosion, but allowing some of the silver to stay just covered in null oil, and that creates, it kind of breaks up the silver and makes some really nice contrast. It's essentially the same technique as Citadel contrast paints. You know what, I will put a little bit of corrosion around the base of the staff, of the spearhead. I think that's looking pretty good, and we'll get, yeah, a few more little bits of corrosion. Oh yeah, that needs a little more toning. Nope, that's my fucking null oil. Just put typhus corrosion in the null oil. It's okay, it was just on the lid. Make sure I haven't got too much shade pooling down there. Get some typhus in there. So that guy's looking pretty bloody grimy. That is fantastic. So let's wash out, and I mean wash out, the typhus corrosion brush. And let's have a look at these fellas. So that metalwork is looking pretty good. It's really important that we let those layers properly dry. We're not quite finished yet with the metal. Well, I'll show you guys, you know, sort of what that's going to look like in a sec when it all dries. We'll jump to another step in a second. I'm going to come over to chat for a bit. So yeah, we've got a lovely little bit of kind of grime and profile building up. Yeah, it's going to be really good. Essentially, where we go from here with that metalwork is we let that fully dry. All of the grit and the pigments will separate. We'll get some really nice kind of bands of grimy, chunky grossness. It works really well in all sorts of applications, not just armor, but also like mechanical components is where it really shines. I use it for like oil and lubricants on my droidicas when I'm painting clones and droids and clankers from Star Wars Legion. Sorry, just having a drink. It's thirsty work, this. And so yeah, it's a good layer. And then once all that grime is there, then we'll come back and we'll do a bit of edge highlighting with either some Stormhost Silver or some Lead Belcher again. I'm going to have an experiment and see if the Stormhost Silver is too bright, just to kind of create those real nice high-profile scratches, which is essentially going to be doing the same layer as the essentially, that job, the kind of highlights with the mithril silver and stuff, is doing the same job as the dry brushing that Keely was talking about earlier. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. It sounds like you are. Fantastic. I'm watching chat now, so talk to me if you want to talk to me. Local old... it's Glenn Corbet. Local old Toby dealer. Thanks, Mike Blake. I'm glad you're enjoying it. This is a bit of a challenge, kind of juggling all of the different bits and pieces, but it's going well. Grimy Gobos, can't go wrong. Hey, Top Table Gaming, is that Steve or Ben, or who have we got manning the channel? I'm guessing it's going to be Steve-O. Hey, it's like 1 a.m. your time, isn't it? Question about brushes. How do you keep your line brushes extremely pointy? Well, I found that the best way to keep your brushes really pointy is to treat them like shit and then buy new ones, because I'm awful. I try to kind of, you know, I guess like whenever I finish using a brush, yes, in the middle of a session, but also at the end, I kind of soak it in water and then really like reform the point with my fingers, kind of pull all the bristles, pay a bit of attention to it when I'm packing the brushes down. But the way that I'm working at the moment, trying to get stuff done fast, my brushes just get chucked in the drawer as soon as whatever I'm painted is done, and yeah, so it's fairly bad, my brush etiquette. But I don't use, you know, whatever those crazy, like the Sable Opus, I don't use any of those crazy brushes. I just use, you know, fairly middle of the range, low to middle of the range art store brushes. And I think the brushes I'm using the most is the Citadel starter set brushes, which is how did I get them? Oh, that's right, the 40k Conquest magazine. So this Battle Games in Middle Earth magazine came out in the early 2000s, and then last year, the Games Workshop released something similar for Warhammer 40k Conquest, which some of you guys might know if you play 40k as well. And in the first issue, you got a brush and like 4 paints for $4, and so I bought like 5 of those issues because one of the paints was Chaos Black or Abaddon Black, and one of the paints was Retributor Armor, and I paint heaps of gold and heaps of black, and I was like, score, that's worth heaps of money to me. So I bought all those issues and then got all those brushes, so that's what I've been using. But yes, try and keep the brushes intact, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. Tom Armitage, yes, the edge highlighting is the exact same sort of stuff as what you do on Uruk-hai. I would probably make the Uruk-hai armor less grimy, so something for the Uruk-hai would maybe you start with a base color that isn't silver, like a tin bits or whatever that is called now, brass scorpion maybe, in the new Citadel range, and then dry brush up from that. I don't know if it's Abaddon or Abaddon. Also, hello Jacko. Everyone say hello to Suresanar Jackson, one of our Zorpazorp members, Zorpazorp lads, who appears on the channel regularly. And oh, I don't know if I should talk about, I was going to say what happened in the last Battle Companies, but some viewers might not have watched, and we wouldn't want to spoil the incredible ending. So everyone say hi to Jacko. But yes, sorry Tom, getting segued by Jacko paying me out about the way I say Abaddon. Yes, for Uruk-hai, I'd work up from not a flat silver profile, work up on like a tin bits or a brass scorpion, and then dry brush up, and then you can wash deeper into the recesses. But I'd use more Nuln Oil than our grimy thing. So those guys should be on the way to drying. Let's go and swing over and have a look. I'll just move the mic. And not knock it 100 times for you guys, which will slightly deafen you. So, as we can see, that grime is starting to dry. Now, the Typhus Corrosion does dry relatively quickly, which, oh yes, that's a great example. Of course, that's the one that went down first. You can really see just how gross... Is that in focus? Sorry, lads. You can really see just how gross and grimy that shield's getting, which is, it's just a bit more interesting than working over a black profile. But of course, these will take a little longer to dry than normal because we've got the Nuln Oil in there, which allows us that extra bit of shade, and the wet working layer, it does do some drying time. So what we'll do is, now that is kind of happening, let's chuck our Nuln Oil back over there. Now we've got to pick our next layer to work on. So, it's going to be, yeah... I'd say the next best layer to go on is some cloth. So let's start with, we'll go for a bit of red cloth, I reckon, for this kind of standing up guy. And we're going to be using a classic Zorpazorp red scheme, where we start with Scarlet Red from Vallejo Game Color, and then do some highlights in Gory Red. When I'm using my big bright reds for Rohan, I also bring in Bloody Red. But we're not going to do that this time because we want to keep this a lot more muted. We need to shake these bad boys. Now the great thing about Vallejo, of course, is I can just go boop. Don't have to use the double paintbrush system. And I'll grab my other red out now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet work. Oh, that's spilling out the top. I'm going to wet work highlight these cloth layers, which is a really great technique because it's super fast, but it also looks bloody awesome. So the first thing we're going to do, see, look, here we go. This is naturally doing it, showing you how I keep my brushes straight. Let's jump on in, and where's our big fellow? So everywhere that's cloth, I'm going to paint completely with scarlet red. And this might seem like a little bit bright. I was paying out on the Games Workshop red scheme earlier. And, you know, now I'm going and doing this, which is relatively bright. But we will mute it down. There we go. And I'm going to get right underneath his loincloth, up into the groin. And we've got, I think... where's my scarlet red? Well, almost loading up with gory red by accident then. We've got a little bit of cloth here around the arms. And I think I can hear Hazel's rattle in the background there. I don't know if you guys are picking that up. Yes, there she is. Make sure that you trim all the way around the thighs and to the front. Don't stress if you get a little bit on the thighs, of course, because, you know, they've got no colour on them. So you can be pretty liberal. Get it in there. And looks like I may have missed a shoulder pad on this guy. But, you know, they're orcs, so I'm just going to paint it red and it's going to look like cloth. Who cares? That's the kind of crazy stuff we like to do here. That guy's looking pretty solid. Now, I am... behind his legs, we could make a decision to make that red cloth as well, but I think I'll just keep that as... I'll keep that as flesh. There's a little bit of cloth. Is that hair? No, that's goblin hair. Jeez, there's actually not a whole lot of cloth. So we've got our scarlet red. That is everywhere there's going to be cloth. That was a nice, easy layer. And now, I don't even have to wash the brush out. I'm just going to dive straight into my gory red, which is my brighter red here that you guys can see. And I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to wet work that. So I'm going to apply the layers wet, and I'm just going to hit the recessed areas. Probably got a little bit too much on the brush here. But you can literally just drop it on and let it flow onto the recessed sections, and it will naturally blend with the scarlet red that's down there. And just kind of help tone it, lighten it up a bit, be a bit of a natural highlight. And we'll see that red has kind of really come to life now. So that is a nice, simple way for doing red cloth. I wouldn't do that on all of them because it is quite eye-catching. So now what we'll do is we'll have a look at some brown cloth. So I've got two colours here. We've got the charred brown and the dark flesh tone from the Vallejo game colour range. More classic Zorpazorp brown workhorse schemes. I'm going to grab some of the charred brown, and I'll load up the dark flesh tone as well. And we're going to do the exact same thing with cloth. I always like to do this with cloth because you want the highlights to be so blended and so natural. Or at least that's the style I like. You can like a really edgy kind of hardcore style. It's just not me. And then we're going to wet work highlight this as well. So we'll start with... Which one did I put down first? Yep, there we go, that one. We're going to start with the charred brown, and we're going to hit that everywhere. There is cloth. So we've got a bit of a loincloth here. This guy has a little less cloth on him because he has so much. Because he's got a little bit more armor coverage, so there's less cloth on this gentleman. Basically, the main components are always. Oh, I might have done that too much paint on the brush there. The main components are always the loincloth, the kind of shoulder, arm cloths. Basically, they're just wearing like a tabard underneath. I've got a little bit here that just dangles down over the top of the leg. Nice. Hope I'm keeping this relatively on the camera for you guys. I'm shooting on 16mm, so it is nice and wide, so even if I'm all the way over here, you guys should be able to see. Looks like it's focusing pretty well too. I'm also going to hit the quiver with a bit of brown. Now this is a bit tricky, make sure you don't accidentally hit the armor, because we have just done all our beautiful hard work on that. And I'm going to hit the arrow stems as well. I won't hit the feathers though, we'll hit those a bit later with some grey when we're painting the base. Now, while I've got the brown out, this is the advantage of using brown for the brown cloth. I'm also going to grab a fine detail brush, which I have somewhere here. This guy's pretty fine. You can see that's a fairly small little brush. Keeping on going with the brown, I'm going to hit all of the straps. Now, we've got straps that are kind of holding on the... Oh, you know what? I might do the flesh tone first, actually, because there are so much... there's like 3 straps going over each leg, so we'll come back to that and grab the strapping at the end. With this guy, we do need to, however, hit the bow, because he's got a nice kind of brown weapon. Oh, it was bloody thick. Going on about thinning my paints, and then I'm doing crap like that. There we go. Pull that off. Oh, and of course, this is our Bowmen, so there is the Van Braces, which we've decided to make red, which we want to hit as well. There we go, that's looking good. Yeah, I quite like charred brown. It's sort of as close as I've found in the Vallejo range to the old school scorched brown from Games Workshop Citadel, which was a really nice brown that I loved. It was like the classic Rohan horse brown, scorched brown, dry brush Bastille brown, or Bastille brown. It was good stuff. Alright, we've got a little bit of that quiver there at the back. Okay, so I think that's our browns for that fellow. Now, we are wet working this layer, so what we're going to do is this time I'm going to grab my fine detail brush, and grab myself some of the dark flesh tone, and I'm just going to hit all of the raised areas with just a little highlight into the wet paint. And it's quite subtle, because you are working with wet layers. You know, it bleeds and it spreads, but what it does do is just give it some really nice two-toned definition that slots in and looks really good, and just gives it a little kick. It just it stops it from being so flat, which is important. We're gonna hit the spear halves, hit this leather here. You do have to reload your brush a little bit more frequently, of course, because it is a fine detail brush. Some on my thumb instead, so we don't have to go back and forth. Just gonna make some simple cross hatching on the bow there. Just for a bit of interest, and we'll put a little bit more highlight there, and then I will drop a little bit of this just straight onto the Van Braces, just to kind of bring them out. So that is what a brown scheme looks like. Now, we've got one last little fellow to do, which is our Spearman. So we'll just whiz through him. Yeah, Michael, I absolutely love the Balrog. His profile is just so much better now as well. I mean, he got some serious lifts in the new edition. The free heroic combat, the whip. I mean, look, the main thing for opponents who are worried about them and playing Balrogs is you basically have to make a decision at the start of the game. Do you engage or do you avoid? And that was, you know, the biggest thing in the old edition was that you could just literally avoid the Balrog really easily. Now, because he's got the free heroic combat, he's got the whip, so you can just grab people and say, hello, would you like to come over here, governor? And then boom, you're in combat. You can't do anything about it. That is absolutely huge. Also, just a little side note, this guy has a little glove on, which is quite cool. So I'm gonna make that brown as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Pedro says you've done a red shirt, now do a gold shirt. A little bit of a Star Trek reference there. So the Balrog is just he's so much better because his kind of engagement range is essentially 14 inches. But really, it's because he's got an 8-inch whip that he can hook people in. But also, if he's in combat, then his engagement range is, you know, potentially, if you at the start of the combat phase for the next turn, it's, you know, he can heroic combat 6, and then he could move another 6, and then use his whip. So he's definitely, he's a lot more menacing. He still can struggle. He's not like overpowered or anything. I played him twice at a tournament in a couple of months ago now. I played 2 Balrogs in 2 games, and I was using Rohan, Theodred's Legendary Legion, of course. And in both games, the Balrog was in combat for a single turn. As in, like, in one game, he wasn't in combat at all, and in the second game, on the final turn of the second game, I charged him on purpose. So you can avoid them if you've got a high movement army, but, you know, you got to basically build your whole thing around avoiding them, which is, you know, you're committing a lot to that. A lot to that. The other thing I realized that you can also do, I think all of these gobbos do have feet. They're not wearing shoes. They've just got a little bit of armor. These 3 poses, I think they're all barefoot. Yes, they are. We'll just check. But some of the other poses, I'm pretty sure the goblins have shoes, or do they all have little toes? No, they all have toes, maybe. Yeah, they all have toes. Okay. Well, I was saying you could make the feet, the boots brown, but it doesn't look like they have any boots. So that is our brown layer down. On that Spearman, I decided not to highlight, just to make it a little bit different, so it's a little bit darker, so we can see we've got our red fabric, our brown dark fabric, and our lightened dark fabric. There you can see the difference. It's very subtle, but it just gives it a little bit more pop. On a model that has a lot of it, it's definitely worth doing it for that extra detailing. So let's have a look at how our metalwork looks like. It's absolutely coming on strong. So now what we'll do is, now the cloth is finished, we'll leap back and we'll finish the metal, and then that will be 2 regions that are completely done. Which is pretty exciting. They're certainly coming along pretty well. They got toes. They need them for climbing. That's absolutely right. Yeah, Marksman, I totally agree. The original Mordor orcs are just phenomenal. They're so good. The metal ones. So this was an interesting time for the Middle Earth strategy battle game. At this point, it was just called Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, of course. And this was like the Fellowship of the Ring edition. So the Fellowship of the Ring edition came out in 01, and we had the release, like the box set with these goblins, but there were also some orc models, which were released basically from the prologue. So they're themed around all those sculpts. And yeah, you're right. They did just go on made to order. Yeah, Tom missed out. Don't worry, the metal orcs will definitely come back on a future made to order. Games Workshop has said that, you know, just because something's gone on made to order once doesn't mean it won't ever again. Things may return, and the metal orcs they're huge sellers. People absolutely love them. So they'll definitely come back. Mikey 5, I do play Hobbit factions. Very rarely though. I don't own any models myself. All my stuff is Lord of the Rings, I think. I have some Mirkwood spiders now. I picked up 6 of them at a buy swap sell when I was down in Melbourne. So there is definitely some Hobbit stuff that I love to play and play with my mates. But all of the stuff that I own is Lord of the Rings. They were I love it. I love Lord of the Rings. It's my jam. Not that I don't love The Hobbit, but it's War of the Ring is where it's at for me. Yes, that's a great point, Brian. Brian, sorry, dude. I actually had a look at that myself. The Weta sculpt. But they, because Weta release all their marquettes and their different kind of figurines, I suppose. The statuettes. They have I think a couple of different goblins. One there's like a full size one, and there's also the little head marquette. And they're really great references, really great visual references to have alongside with you as you're painting. They've got because they've got so much detail, and because when you're only painting from miniature. Photos of other miniatures, you get locked into thinking of like color blocks, whereas those marquettes and those statues are painted so kind of with really lovely color gradients. Yeah, Michael's right. The only 2 plastic sets back then were the Orcs and the Warriors of the Last Alliance, which was kind of an interesting little kind of development pipeline for Games Workshop, which we'll touch on in a sec. Now those are dry. Let's leap on back. If Larissa is watching this live stream, my water cup is empty, and I'd totally love some more water, but that's fine if you're not. I need a call bell. So those 3 boys are all finished on the cloth. They're all dry, which looks absolutely awesome. You can see once it loses the shine of wet, we're getting a really nice kind of grimy goblin-y palette going on here. And now, technically, there is one more stage to those. I'll also give that brown or that red a wash with Nuln Oil, but I'm not going to do it yet because it's going to get in the way of what I'm doing with my silver. So, it's experiment time, ladies and gentlemen. We have two options here. We're going to go back and create the kind of armor highlights that we all know and love from the chipped and worn and battered goblin forces. We're going to start by using some Stormhost silver. Oh, looks like Larissa's watching. Here comes my water.
I like to consider it as quality control.
Quality control. Thank you, hun. So we're going to be we're going to try using Stormhost silver, but it might be too bright. We'll have a look. Otherwise, we can go back and re-highlight with Lead Belcher, because we have, of course, we've pushed the color profile of the Lead Belcher right down by griming it all up and making it really kind of, you know, grimy and oily and gross. Thanks, honey. This could still work, but I'm kind of confident that this is going to look good. Oh, all my cats are coming in on the live stream. No, Larissa's got them out. Okay. I can? Hang on one second.
I've only got 2 arms and they're currently occupied.
Larissa's doing very well to juggle a baby, kick out 2 cats, and bring water all at the same time. Excellent work. So, Stormhost Silver. This one is a bit tricky. It's one of the new white lid, one of the new Citadel metallics. So it's a bit kind of... Oh, see? Look at that. Really kind of separated. You need to shake the crap out of this one. You want to make sure with all these metallics that they're really well mixed, because you don't want any of those flakes kind of not separating well. Oh, Jesus, we're getting there. We're getting there. Need one of those things. The old reciprocating saw with a, you know, clamp, and then you clamp the pot in. That's Daniel from Full Scale Conflict taught me that trick. So let's have a go at this. This is looking pretty well mixed. I mean, you can still see all the lines of different pigment or whatever, but that's fine. Oh, that brush wasn't washed out. Nice work, Lucky. So I'm going to use my fine detail brush because I just want to be applying little highlights, and what I'm going to do, instead of working on my wet palette, is I'm actually going to work off my very technical thumb palette. I'm going to get that wet palette out of the way so I can really get a good grip on this. And what I want to do is just come in quite irregularly and just hit with some chips, some highlights. It doesn't matter if they're kind of chunky and thick, like you can see that brush sort of slipped off there, because what we're painting here is not just like the highlight reflections on the metal. I'm already forgetting that I did that. I think I can actually paint just out of the pot with this. It's very thin. This is like the original steel, right, that hasn't been corroded. So we can even let this flow down onto some of the flatter regions. Essentially, yeah, you want to kind of let the grime motivate where you're painting your silver. So you don't want to be painting the silver over anywhere that has like already settled and is like really grimy. The areas that have a little bit of that lead belcher showing through and are covered by predominantly Nuln Oil, you want to come in and then add like another highlight of silver that like graduates into the Nuln Oil. Oh yeah, that's working. Stormhost Silver is the way to go. Look at that, a nice bright eye-catching highlight. I hope you guys can see that in focus. Yeah, I think it's good. So yeah, same. We're gonna have a fair bit on the sword. Also, if this feels like too crazy bright, don't worry, because you can always just come back and wash it back with Nuln Oil. So because the sword isn't that corroded, we really want a fair bit of Stormhost Silver pointing towards the end. We want to absolutely get a whole bunch of this. You can actually kind of be like, you can be considered, but you can also kind of be pretty sloppy with it, because it creates a randomness that doesn't look like you've deliberately highlighted it. Get in there, create a few sort of sharp, spiky edges, and get a little bit of that action in there. Alright, that's looking good. Now we want to get a little bit on the back of the shield as well. A little bit on the back of the shields. You can see that the recess detail has really taken all of that grime, so I'm going to really lean into that and paint a fair bit of the Stormhost silver on regions that aren't full of that grime, like that flat area there. So let's have a look. He could use a little bit of silver. Oh, his legs. God, I'm not finished yet. Not finished yet. Really accentuate those corners. All the sharp, spiky bits would be the stuff that is least corroded. Dude, I'm really, really liking this metal. What do you guys think of the metal? You loving it? You digging it? Yeah, essentially, yeah. Anyway, because like when you think about the sharp stuff, the pointy stuff, that's the stuff that's going to be knocked on cave walls and knocked on all these different bits and pieces. I am digging this metal. Oh, this is cool. These guys look sick. Ha! I was hoping this would work in my head, and it has. So yeah, lots of spikes here. Really want to kind of accentuate the tip of the spear. Spiky, spiky, spiky. There's lots of kind of flat bits of grime there on that greave, as we discovered earlier. So I'm going to leave a lot of that there. Now, this is the flat panel that we were talking about earlier. We can see we've got a lovely separation of grime with some silvery bits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with some mithril silver, or Stormhost silver, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to hit the edges of everywhere where there is a bit of silver. You know, basically it's like, look, this was the original color. The chainmail or lead belcher is the metal that's beginning to corrode, and then the full null typhus corrosion is the really corroded metal. That's looking pretty good. Get a few up there in the rib cage. And a few there as well. Oh, this helmet, this particular Spearman has some really nice helmet detail that you can really go to town on. Really get those shining highlights. Alright, geez, man, these guys are really coming together. As soon as you get metal on, it just looks awesome. Hit that chainmail as well, because the chainmail would be moving a lot and clinking. So there'd be plenty there for him. Okay, that's number 2 done. He was very quick. And then we've got lots of spiky bits on the Bowmen. Looking good, looking good. How long have we been streaming for now? An hour and a half, you guys. Crikey. I'm definitely not painting all 12. That's that would be crazy town. I think I'll be down to 1 concurrent viewer, but if I painted all 12. More Nuln oil coming, asks Tom. Definitely, you can push it back. We will have a look at how it dries, and see if we think that the highlights are too bright, and if. Because basically what Nuln Oil does is Nuln Oil, it pushes the highlights back a bit, but it also deepens the recesses. So it's, you know, it creates more and more contrast. So it will knock back the mithril silver a little bit, and it will also deepen the recesses and push that corroded stuff even further into darkness and into black. So we'll have a look. We'll have a look, Tom, and we'll see what we think once it's all done. So, 1, 2, 3. Look at that, some beautiful little clunky highlights. Oh, I'm pretty partial to those, I'm not gonna lie. I think they look pretty good. We'll see how we go. We've got to Nuln Oil the fabric at the end anyway, so we'll come back to that and we'll have a look. Let's wash up our fine detail brush, which we won't be needing for a little while now. And let's have a look. So, in terms of our big layers, we've done our cloth, we've done our metalwork. They're the 2 really workhorse layers. Let's get those paints back over there in the right order. I don't have a little OCD meltdown. And now we have basically the next big layer is, of course, our skin tone. Now, we're going to be using a kind of variation on the battle games in Middle Earth. Let me grab it. What the hell did I do with it? Well, that's excellent. I've lost the issue that we're supposed to be filming this live stream. Fantastic work, Lockie. Is it under my thing? No, it's somewhere. It's probably on the other side of the room. Essentially, what you got was a pot of Goblin Green, which is the new Warpstone Glow, or which is the old Warpstone Glow. And you know, this is, look at that classic Goblin Green. Now, one of the things that we really, you know, whenever you find an old collection of models that was painted during this era, the Battle Games in Middle Earth era, they all have Goblin Green painted around the rims of the bases. So we get, you know, we get a little bit of that kind of classic greeny tone by bringing it in. I really love Warpstone Glow, but they kind of recommended to paint it straight on and straight green, and they just they look like goblins, right? They look like D&D or high fantasy goblins, and I want to bring in a bit more of a natural skin tone that's a little bit more realistic. So what I like to do is I like to grab a blend of Kislev Flesh and Warpstone Glow. Now the primary kind of agent is the Kislev Flesh, and then we bring in about, it's sort of like 80% Kislev to 20% Warpstone, and what the Warpstone does is it brings in kind of the flavour, where's my big brush, there we go, the flavour of that kind of greeny goblin skin, but it gives us something that's actually a little bit more realistic. Now I did this exact technique in my my Golfimble tutorial. I might take a little more Kislev because I'm going to be painting these 12 this afternoon. And we'll kind of drop that on the wet palette, get off as much as we can. I'm going to wash that brush out completely, and then I'm going to use that exact same brush, and I'm going to grab a little dollop of Warpstone. So yeah, basically it brings in the flavor of that old school green, and then it just feels a little bit more natural. Let's have a look and we'll see how we go. So bring in that green into the Kislev Flesh. So it's still very much a fleshy tone, but you can see that it's got a green hue. It's got a green hue. I don't know where the focus is going now. Is that going on the palette? Yeah. You can see it's a little bit green. It's also quite light. Now, Kislev Flesh is a layer paint, so Lockie, why are you doing your base coat of flesh? Because I'm fucking lazy. That's why. I hate painting 15 different layers on flesh, so I like to create a few kind of tricks. And the number one is, paint light, shade dark. So we're going to be using this kind of lighter green tone, and then we'll shade it back with some Kislev, with some Reichland Flesh shade a bit later. So let's have a look at this and see if we think this is too fleshy or not green enough. We'll get a little bit here on his face. That is very thick on the brush. And what we want to do is just put that basically all over the whole model. No, I'm pretty happy with that. It's fleshy. It's got a little bit of a green tone to it, and it will look even more natural when we push our shade into it. Now you can basically just paint the whole face. You don't have to worry about leaving the eyes or whatever. I'm just going to hit all of it for now. The only thing you do need to worry about is the hair, which I completely forgot goblins even had, and thus have prepared no paint to paint them. We'll do something fun. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Alright. Get a little bit more of that green. Yeah, starting to come to life now, isn't he? Now, the tricky things are, in fact, you know what? We're going to change brush. We're working with some pretty fine detail stuff now. I'm never going to use the fine detailed brush again, says Lockie, until the next thing I paint. Now, Daniel Stewart, just so that you know, I have seen a very slight stream critique, Lockie. Your lighting is very cold, which makes everything look a bit blue-green, so it's harder to see the reds and browns. That's a very good point. That's actually just because my white balance setting is on auto. I don't know. I might be able to just change that now. Here, let me just swing off for a moment. is also a perfect time because I need to swing a battery. Let's do that. So yeah, obviously, one of the tricky things about filming the old white balancing of getting, when you're doing painting tutorials, you want everything to look pretty nice in terms of color. So I want to see if I can make sure you guys can actually see. The lighting is a little cold. We might try and warm it up a bit. Ah. Well, I just found my book. Dear oh dear. Alright, there we go. I've warmed her up a little bit. Okay, excellent. Well, I found the book, guys, so we're all sorted. However, I have been sitting on it, and so now this beautiful mint condition Battle Games of Middle Earth has been a little bit squashed. Now, the convenient thing is I have about 8 copies of issue 1, so I'm not too worried there, I'm not going to lie. Alright, so that should be a little bit warmer for you guys. Sorry about that little delay there, but I just thought it might be nice to try and get that colour a little bit nicer. In between, stream 1 and 2, I will workshop it and pick a perfect colour balance. It's always, we're always doing our little tests here to make sure everything's happening. But thank you for that. Who was that suggested that? I think it was Dan? Yeah, Daniel Stewart. So thanks, Dan. A good little note, because it is important. One of the tricky things, and if you guys are doing any miniature photography yourselves, one of the quite tricky things is getting your lighting right so that your colors are showing to be kind of true. So now, I haven't been painting for quite a while. Look, all these paints are nice and wet. That's why we use a wet palette, guys. So I've got my fine detail brush, and now we're going to pick out the rest of these goblin skins. Obviously we've got our hands. Now, it's about 38 degrees Celsius today, so I have put the fan on, and in my headphones it's audible, but I have a feeling that that's because I'm listening to true volume. I'm not actually listening to the streams. Obviously I'd be listening to myself talking delayed. So is the audio still all good for you guys? All nice and clear? Alright, we want a little bit. Here we go, we've got his elbow as well. Basically now, there's like quite a lot of little regions that are popping up between all the different bits of armor, and this is the layer that we need to be careful of. So this is what I was talking about before. Sometimes, like a lot of people will say, paint in the order that you put your clothes on. So if you're putting your skin on first, because you wake up and you put your skin on like we all do, then you've got no chance of accidentally painting over the clothes, right? So because I've painted all the clothes and stuff first, if I screw up this skin tone layer, I'm going to do damage to the work I've already done. However, I find it easier to keep the skin in the skin zones than keeping the armor and cloth and all of that off painted skin tone. That's just my personal preference, but you guys can do it whatever way you like. So that is our arm there. We'll do our other arm on the other side. I love this skin tone so much. Just you wait, guys. It looks a little flat now and uninteresting, but wait until we bring the third best shade of all to play. Okay, awesome. Fine, can barely hear the fan. Thank you for that, Brian. Yes, it's hot. And Larissa came in and found me filming without the fan on and was like, I like him alive. Alright, that's looking good. This skin tone's gonna look fantastic. Hey, just out of interest, we've got still 80 people watching the stream. Why don't we do a little sound off of all the factions that we play? Because I'm kind of interested to see a bit of what the spread is. Not really as it relates to the live stream. We're kind of, painting weird, old school Lord of the Ringsy stuff. But the great thing, of course, is that a lot of that is still super in use today. So a lot of these will be relevant. I mean, heaps of people play Moria armies. And Moria army won Aragorn, didn't it? Pretty sure. So, yeah, it's not really a worry about whether or not this stuff will be relevant. It's actually going to be super handy for people, hopefully. That's the dream. But it's just the battle games in Middle Earth are also such a great kind of vehicle for this live stream, because they give us a cool framework of little goals and things to do, and I don't have to create plans. It's all just there. We flip through the book and we do what they tell us, and there's some really awesome stuff in there as well. Yeah. So who are you guys playing? What armies? I see we've got some Gondor, some fiefdoms. Dol Amroth, Rohan, every faction, says a rogue Jedi. He must be playing Star Wars Legion as well, I imagine. Yeah, there's Minas Tirith, an army of Thor for Pedro, so we've got a lot of good forces so far. Yeah, missing a bit of skin up there under the armpit. This is one of the trickier layers, so it does take a little bit longer. I've messed up that hairline as well, so we'll need a little more green there. So that is his arms, that is his head done. Aha, look at this! The back of the ears! I always miss the back of the ears when I'm painting kind of old school orcs. Need to get a little bit of paint in there as well. So now we'll start working on the legs. The legs are probably one of the trickier bits, because they're nice and flat, so they've got these broad surfaces, so you kind of get a little bit complacent, and then all the cloth and armor has all these spiky bits that overlap it, and you end up always accidentally painting. What else have we got here? I've been missing. We've got Rune. Dan's playing Easterlings and Khans, Isengard, Rohan, Gondor, Athelion, Mordor next year, and Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead's classic. Rohan, Mordor, Lothlorien, Minas Tirith, Morkan, Josiah! Hey dude, how you going? Commiserations on the cricket. Kiwi's got... it's just so depressing. Blundell made 100 though, which was good. But yeah, would have been good if... yeah, Kane Williamson, come on man, we miss you. We need to see it. But yes, Khand is yes, we love Josiah's Khand army. We saw that in the what's it called? The New Zealand League final vlog. We had the old Contest of Champions, and I basically got very, very lucky. Josiah kept killing everybody that he was trying to get in combat with the impact hits. So even though the king killed a whole bunch of models, he wasn't scoring any points. Which was very lucky. And then the one time he did get in combat, he screwed the heroic combat, and my plucky Royal Guard won, which basically probably cost Josiah the game. It was a good game. What else we got? We got Khans, we got Mordor, Elves. Yeah, you're right. Actually, there's been very little Hobbit factions being read out so far. That's a good call, Michael. Lothlorien, Dwarves, Rohan. Not surprising. Rohan's amazing. Nobody playing the Shire. Some Serpent Horde, Moria, Rohan, Iron Hills. There we go. The White Council. So we've got a little bit of Hobbit. Yes, yeah. I mean, it is fair. The Hobbit stuff is a little bit, a little bit pricey. Yeah, look, it can't all be Kane Williamson's job, Josiah. You know, other people need to do stuff. But yes, he could do a little more. He's kind of fluffed in the last two tests. Sorry, we're talking cricket for everyone else around the world who has no idea what we're talking about. Anyway, we'll segue back to wargaming now. So a pretty good spread of factions in terms of good versus evil, but my goodness, a lot of Lord of the Rings. Now I'm just doing the backs of the legs here, and this is a little tricky because I've got all this strapping, but of course I didn't bother painting it like we talked about, so it's much easier. I can just kind of jam it in there, get it all in. And, we're going to be fine because we'll just go back over the strapping. And then the other final thing is these feet. Now, we do want to be careful with the feet because I don't want to hit the get any green on the base, because I'm not going to be repainting the base. I'm just going to be dry brushing up from black pretty heavily, grant you. But yeah, it will be frustrating. So I'm just gonna be very careful as I paint the feet. Very nice. Oh, that paint was a little thick. Let's pull that off on the thumb. Might actually bring a little bit of water into my brush. Sometimes it's good to do that. Just grab a bit of water on the brush and bring it back into the painting area, and you can thin out, you know, whatever dastardly layer you just put down that's too thick. We'll go a little bit more. Okay, I believe that took quite a while, didn't it? Hey, it's Brendan! Hey, Brendo! God, all the Kiwis are here. This is awesome. Yeah, crikey. Does anyone play Ruffians? Yeah, good question. I know someone else in New Zealand, Tom, I don't think Tom's watching, but he's got a big Ruffian horde. It's gonna be very exciting. Oh, Declan Callahan, man! All the Kiwis are here. It's probably because we're all awake and on holiday. Yeah, very nice. Oh dear me. Alright, so that is our first little dude of green. We're going to let that dry and try and speedily smash through these other two, because that took quite a while. We don't want to be painting all day. But we're getting to the pointy end. Once this skin tone goes down, I mean, we're basically there, really. So, you know, these guys come together pretty quickly. I'm going to start the bottom up this time. This guy's got a lot less exposed skin, so he'll be quicker. We're kind of looking at speed painting techniques today, really. I'm only painting 3 at once rather than the full 12, but you know, you're kind of racing through region by region across the 3 models. It's good doing it this way because we get to see, you know, how the different models come together, because there's subtle differences in the armor and the cloth and all that kind of stuff. Do a little bit of that action there. Oh, first bit of green on the base. It's alright, I'll fix it. It's not too big a deal. We'll just do some heavy dry brushing in that region. I want to get in behind the strapping. Kiwi power. Yeah, I mean, so I guess the other thing to kind of talk about is not just what we're playing, but how we're all feeling about the new legendary legions. War and Rohan's just come out. How much are they going to shake up the meta? Obviously, you know, we got you know, so many new Rohan legions. Like, my goodness. You know, the Fords of Eisen Legion with Theodred. Obviously, Aemer's Legion, which I think will be strong, but probably didn't need to be. You know, it's got a few kind of buffs that were taken away, like the +1 strength on the charge being restricted to a 12-inch bubble around Aemer. I kind of feel like that was probably a bit unnecessary, because basically with the Rohan Legion, with any Legion really, the question I'm asking is this better than Riders of Theod? And I don't think any of them are, but they certainly give different ways to play. So how do you guys feel about the different legions? Has any kind of jumped to the top of your queue? Obviously, Ugluk Scouts is seeming like it's going to be popular. People are also getting pretty pumped about the Wargs. I mean, we sort of found them. Granted, we did rig that scenario so that it was very suited to them because we thought they were going to get screwed. But like, you know, they were pretty good. They were pretty competitive. They had some. Oh, I'm holding the dude out of frame. Sorry. They had some good stuff going for them. So. In the right situation, they can definitely be really effective. Now, one little note, when you're painting all of this kind of quite finicky detail, trying to get the flesh tone right up underneath the cloth and stuff, if you don't get it all the way up, don't worry, because that's all going to fall away to black anyway as we shade. So yeah, you don't have to be like super finicky about it. Dude, this makes me want to paint a Goblin army. These look awesome. Ask me this question after I've painted the next 7 or 10 or however many there are. And then we will be slightly less... I'll probably be slightly less enthused. my water has been refilled. Excellent, excellent. So the tricky little thing is this goblin thumb. It kind of blends in and merges with the pole there, so we'll just do that much. All right, got a little bit of green in there. That's his arms. Oh no, one arm to go. Sorry, Gobbo. One thing that you'll find with a lot of these old plastic sculpts, and this is a great example, is sometimes there's just no detail and there's a flat lump of plastic where it doesn't really make sense. We've got, you know, this little kind of region here. So what I've done is I usually just like to paint those dark neutral tones like cloth. So that particular bit is just going to be cloth. It's, yeah, otherwise we're going to be here all day. Now, I've got one hand there. I'm going to make that a glove and leave that brown. And the other one hand is green. I've got his wrist. His shoulders are all covered with cloth. And then we've just got a tiny little bit of skin tone in the visor. Now, this one's always a tricky one. What you want to do is get a decent amount of paint on the brush, but not too thick, so that you're just kind of dabbing in and you're not having to move the brush around too much. Because once you start having to move the brush around, that's when you'll accidentally hit different areas that you weren't wanting. So I've got a fair bit of paint in there, which looks good. I'm going to take all the paint off and then just make sure that that isn't too thick. There we go, we got our green in there. Oh, the ears! There we go, forgetting the ears again. We've got some ears poking out the back here. Paint is starting to thicken up and dry on the palette. Now I've put the fan on, but that's okay. Okay, another little goblin skin tone finished. I think he looks even better than the first one. I'm not a huge fan of the faces, but I mean, let's not judge them yet. We've still got shade to come. Oh, it's Angus Gallagher. Hello, Angus, from down in Melbourne. Yes. Oh, now another question that has been asked in the stream is, what is everyone's first painted miniature? Which is a good question. You guys are firing away all the community engagement content for me. It's fabulous. So what have we got here? We've got Lurtz, we've got Rangers, Rohan, Gondor, and Rivendell. I'm guessing that's what Angus is playing. Otherwise, first painted miniature is pretty impressive. Boromir for Jaro. Yeah, I mean, Boromir came out in the battle games in Middle Earth. You know, back in the early 2000s. He's in issue, I don't know, 10 maybe? We'll see. We get into some Fellowship stuff pretty soon as well. The Fellowship supplement is the last hope for Lurtz, says Buchan. So, Michael, yeah, Isengard did get a little stiff on the heroes, which is a shame. So hopefully Lurtz can get an extra buff in a Fellowship supplement to kind of lift him up and give him some more stuff. That would be really cool. Brendan, have you seen, Brendan here just asks, we could also do a Black Riders Legendary Legion. I'm actually running a custom Black Riders Legendary Legion at the Ardor Unleashed Doubles, which is like a legion that we've written specifically for the event. I posted it on the New Zealand page and the Zorpazorp page, so if you're keen, check that out. It's good fun. It's such good fun. So I think we're playing 800 point doubles, and it's like, you know, 400 points of Wraith aside or whatever, but we're waiving the rule that it has to be an even amount just because the Wraiths are so weird, just for that Legion. But basically, I think the Wraiths we're running are Kumul, because he's a beast, the Witch King, obviously, and then the Undying, because the Undying is just absolutely awesome when you've got, you know, 8 Wraiths around the place. He is fantastic. So, last Goblin, let's get this skin tone down. Ooh, probably shouldn't. We're going to do the back of his straps. What else have people been painting? First for me was the Balrog, Tom Glover. That is an ambitious first model to paint, I have to say. Crikey, I have yet to paint a Balrog ever. I've never even actually played with one. I've only played against them. So that will definitely be something that I'll have to experiment with. I mean, Moria is pretty fun, the Gobbos. And I've wanted to build a Moria board and do a big kind of reclamation of Moria campaign with Balin for some time. It was sort of the next big board I wanted to build after Osgiliath. And then I got sidetracked into a million other projects and decided it was a crazy endeavor. The board was, I've done all the schematics, I have it all. It was essentially 9 foot by 5 foot, and then 6 foot high, with heaps and heaps of levels. It had the east gate, the west gate, like the top of Zurich Ziegel with, you know, the peak at the top of Durin's Stairs where Gandalf fought the Balrog and killed him and all that. Had it all kind of built in this massive, huge diorama that was magnetized and you could pull apart. It would be very, very cool, and it would also motivate me to paint a Balrog. What else we got? Some orcs. Oh, Sam Reed, the first thing he painted was a Mumak. Yeah, fair. The Mumak was actually up pretty early on the list for me as well, because when I first bought my own models, my kind of first foray into this whole hobby was this, right? Was the Battle Games of Middle Earth, but I shared a set with my mate, and he did all the painting, because my parents didn't buy it. So basically they were his, but we shared them. And then eventually I got my own. I think one Christmas I got the Warriors of Minas Tirith starter set, which was the one that came with 6 paints. Now you had 12 men of Minas Tirith and 6 paints. Let's see if we can remember what the paints were. They would have been Dwarflesh for your skin tone. There was Chaos Black. There was Chainmail. I think Skull White to do the white tree. So how many's out? That's 4. And then Bestial Brown for painting the bases and the leather. Ooh, what else? Can anyone else remember the 6th paint? I think there were 6. Yes. Bestial Brown, Dwarflesh, Chaos Black, Chainmail, Skull White. Oh, gold! Shining gold! Because there was a couple of bits of gold detail. Yeah. So basically I had those 6 paints, and then I just played, like, 6v6 with my Men of Minas Tirith. And then the next thing I bought after the starter set was a Mumakil. And that was for my birthday. So the Christmas box set was the Warriors of Minas Tirith, and then my birthday in April was the Pelennor Field supplement, which came out then, and a Mumakil, and all of the paints needed. My dad went into Games Workshop, and the Games Workshop guy talked him into buying like 20 paints that were necessary for the Mumakil, and basically like got the exact paint set from the guide that came in that book. It was awesome. Good birthday present. And I had him painted up within a week, I think. I got onto it pretty quickly. And it's not even that bad. I have it downstairs. I didn't quite understand highlighting and how that was supposed to work properly. I sort of messed that all up, but it's not that bad considering I was, 8 or 9. Yeah, it's a good sort of stuff. Alright, Bits and Bolts is heading off to bed. Night, dude. Fair. It's getting pretty late your time, I imagine. I gotta say, it's so cool to see all the regular commenters on here. Yes, a Rogue Jedi, Shining Gold. Yeah, you're right. Hey, Tim Garlic. Hey, dude. Sorry if I didn't see this message before you went to bed. But lovely to see you there. Mandalore's off to bed. Everyone's heading off to bed. Oh, you're still here. Okay. Oh, I see. Bits and Bolts was saying good night to other people. I'm all over it. Yes, we will have a bit of an exodus. As it gets later, but that's understandable. This stream in the future will be about 2 hours earlier, but the only reason it was later was because I was up till 4 AM last night getting the live stream settings working. But it's working pretty well. What's everyone's experience of the stream in terms of is it buffering? Is the audio and the video in sync? That was something I had to do a bit of manual adjustment because I'm recording with a USB microphone and a separate camera. I had to manually work out the exact millisecond delay between the microphone and the camera inputs to try and get those in sync for you. So yeah, what's it like? Is there buffering? Top quality, awesome, good. Good, because I was wondering, obviously when we're filming miniatures and stuff, we want to see stuff in pretty decent detail. So I wanted the quality to be relatively high, but I also didn't want it to be buffering too crazy. So I just put it to the top of YouTube's recommended. I'm just, yeah, praying that my internet connection doesn't randomly drop out or something. But it's pretty good now. We got a pretty good fiber connection, so it's pretty stable. And there's some kind of built-in safety anyway for all that, I think, with YouTube. So I think that is all of the flesh tone on all 3 orcs finished in terms of the base coat. Right, well, that was probably the longest step so far, wasn't it? So that is our green and Kislev flesh blend all finished, and now it is time to bring that flesh to life with some Reikland flesh shade. Now this one, you really need to shake the crap out of. Just like Null Noil and Agrax Earth Shade, this guy goes really glossy if you separate it. Yeah, you're right, the green and the red, it looks really cool. The contrast between the green and the red on this guy, it looks nice. You can sort of see why Games Workshop went for that red. I just think their red's too bright. I'm really happy with that red as a bit of difference compared to some brown. Anyway, so now we've got our Reikland flesh shade. We're going to come in and basically we're going to shade pretty heavily all over that green. Now who's the guy I painted first? This gentleman. And you'll see straight away as we put this, it browns it up, it makes it more of a natural kind of reddy skin tone, and it goes into all the recessed detail and just makes all of those skin components really pop. And I'm doing this before painting the straps because I don't want to put Reikland flesh shade on the straps. Some of these larger areas really benefit the shade, and it does look like it will look pretty heavy right now, but as most of you know, when you're shading, it all kind of, you know, it all disappears as it dries, and it leaves the essence of the shade without being so hardcore. The shading steps are very fun on camera live because, you know, they don't take very long. So we get lots of that in. You can be pretty liberal with it. Let's have a look if I got enough. Oh, here we go on this foot. Really helps give us all those recessed details. The face is really where this, you know, earns its money, because we want it to get in there. We want it to make all the recessed detail of the face come to life, so I don't have to do any highlights or any of that kind of stuff. But we also don't want it pooling too heavily around the eyes. Alright, pretty happy with this fellow. He looks cute. Let's go to our Bowmen. We'll start with our flat surfaces so I don't put too much on the face. You can see straight away it's flowing into that nice muscle definition. You got to kind of use all the tools of the trade when you're painting models that are, you know, a bit older, because the detail's a little bit flatter. They're not as, you know, it's just not as poppy and as brilliant and as awesome straight off the bat. The hands and arms are coming up pretty well because they've got a little bit of that various like muscle definition, particularly on this archer model. He's actually quite a good one. He's got some nice muscle tone, so the shade sort of flows into the recesses of the muscle tone and looks quite good. And now we'll do the face. Yeah, this is another nice face actually. Some of the faces on the sculpts are a little bit flat, don't have the best kind of detail in them, but this guy's looking pretty good. This guy's looking pretty good. Pretty good. Alright. Get a little bit more in there. I'm pretty happy with that. Just make sure there's not any excess pooling on the face. Beautiful. That's Orc 2 done. Orc, Goblin, I should say. Skin tone of Goblin 2, and then, oh, this is probably my favourite pose. I love this little guy. He looks really badass. He's got some cool armor, his helmet looks awesome. That green was probably a bit over the top. Under his loincloth, but that's okay, we won't see it. Look straight away, look at the definition in those fingers, just looks awesome. A little bit on the ears, and then this is a really important little bit where we want to drop a fair bit of Reikland flesh shade into that lining of the helmet, because this is the worst part on that model. There's not a whole lot of detail in there. So by darkening it all down, we stand the best chance of getting some tone and some definition out of it. but also it's inside a helmet, it's dark, it kind of hides the fact that it's not the nicest part of the model. Oh, getting cat hair in wet paint, that's always good. It's a constant battle in my workshop. Got two little kitties, I'm sure will appear on the stream at some point. Now, if you ever put too much in, just blot your brush and take it out. There we go. Okay, so that is our flesh shade done. You can have a look. I'm going to close the lid on the flesh shade before I send it flying. I've done that too many times. And here are our little guys. They are coming to life. Look at them. We're getting there. We're getting very, very close indeed. We'll let that flesh shade dry for just a second. And then we've got a few more little bits and pieces to do. Oh, how are we going over here? There's still 75 of us on the stream. Very exciting. What are you guys chatting about? Yeah, I need food too, actually. Bits and bolts. I'm starving. I haven't eaten breakfast. I don't think there's anything in the house. I'll have to go over the road. First model was an Easterling who is still in James's army. Very nice. Very nice. Oh, Batiste boys, my favourite Lord of the Rings sculpt might be the Mahud King. That is a really sick model. I do love myself some Mahud. I love Farharad. I just love the impact hits of the camel riders. They're absolutely awesome. Thanks for watching, Buckin. We'll see you next time. Yeah, Declan, it just gets everywhere. The cat hair is insane. I was like keeping Franklin and Rosie out last night while I was setting up the stream because I just knew. I did a big vacuum of my desk, my keyboard, everything was full of. Yeah, favourite sculpts overall, that's a good thing to chat about. Thank you for watching, Nicholas. We'll see you next time. Have a good sleep. And again, we will have the stream on a little bit earlier next time. So, favourite model. Whoa, that's so hard for me. I mean, I love Rohan Royal Guard, which we all know. I don't know. Oh, there's too many. Some of the Aragorn sculpts. The Aragorn we'll be using today is one of my favourite sculpts. Primaris Reavers. Yeah. Not quite the system though. Alrighty, Rick. Okay, so we got ourselves 3 little goblins here that are coming along quite nicely. Where to go next? This is looking pretty good. Let's jump in and do some quick little detail layers. So we're just going to finish off our straps now. Wet palette life. My straps are all ready to go because this wet paint is still wet. So let's have a look here. We've got any straps on this gentleman. So we're basically just doing the straps on the back of the legs just to make sure that they are in fact brown and they don't stay black. They've got a little bit of detail in them. I've left a bit of skin black there by accident, so I'll just make that brown and make it look like it's a additionally thick strap. Gotta save us some time in all the ways we can. So you just want to make sure that your brush is really dry so that you're not... And remix the paint on the palette a bit too. Just so that you're not putting watery paint down, which will just flow into the skin tone. That looks like they're the only straps for you, my friend. It's an easy one. Yeah, the strapping little detail there isn't particularly difficult. We just gotta keep a nice controlled brush. So I'll throw up some photos of the finished boys when they're all done. I'll chuck them up on the Zorpazorp page because I will paint them today, because if I don't paint them right now after this stream, I won't end up painting them all. And I will, and we absolutely want them all painted. But I'm not going to paint all 12 of them today, or we'll be here till 4 o'clock in the afternoon Australian time. But that's okay. Alright, so we've got ourselves some straps on him. That's, Jesus, yeah, less and less straps. Used to Rohan, there's just straps everywhere. These guys have got so much skin tone, I suppose, there's much less armor to be strapping on. Yeah, so it's all about the fine detail brush for this stuff. It's really nice because the brown straps kind of give the green legs a little bit more definition as well. They kind of help break up the block. Now if you wanted to, you could come back with a bit of dark flesh tone and lighten those straps up to a brighter colour. I think I'm pretty happy with them just being charred brown. That looks pretty good. Now the strap, the Bowman has an extra strap going across his armour at the front. And I think in this instance, I will actually lighten that strap a little bit, just to give it some more contrast between... That was way too much paint on the brush. Just to give it some contrast between the armor. Because the armor's so dark, and the brown is so dark, whereas when it was on the green, I didn't need to worry. Oh, and there's some straps there as well on those van braces. Oh yeah, there might be... Sure I didn't miss any straps on the other models? I think I might have. Jump back. Got a couple of straps here on these arm greaves. One more strap there. Okie dokie. That's his straps done. And now I thought I was finished. But I forgot about the straps on the arm greaves. That guy's got his arms all tucked in. Yeah, so it was just that one little spot. There should be. I might make that around there actually. Okay, fantastic stuff. So, that is our straps finished. Let's just look at our master hero here. That's our straps, that's our bits and pieces there done. So now, we've got a few little details left. What we want to do now is do probably our face detail, I think, is the next way to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the eyes. Now, I'm going to make the eye color like a bit crazy. I'm going to bring in some yellow. Now, I'm not sure if we should do straight yellow, because I think it might be a bit too intense. So I think what we'll do is we'll just knock the yellow back a little bit by mixing in some green, just to make it... Oh, but it might blend too much with the face skin tone. Yeah, let's just, as an example, just grabbing some straight yellow out of the pot, and I'm going to throw it straight on this eye. So that is pretty yellow. However, what we can do is wash it back with another coat of... Yeah, that is some hardcore yellow. I like that. That really gives them a little bit of pop. Let's do that on all of them. So this is the old Sunburst yellow, which is now called Flashgitz yellow. So what you want to do, and here's a trick for painting eyes. Grab your paintbrush, load it up with a dot, and then dot it down your thumb until you're happy with the dot size. So I'm happy with dot 2, so I know I can load it up, dot once, and the second dot is going to be the size that I want. Tiny little dot there. Oh, that was a little big, but that's okay. I'll wash it back. There we go, we got some yellow eyes in that little guy. These yellow eyes are insane, I love it. Need to just reform the tip on this fine detail brush, because it has gone a little. Might actually go straight on this eye, because I picked up quite a small amount of paint. Alright. That is 6 yellow eyes, and now what we want to do is put the tiniest pupil using some Abaddon Black. See you, Brendo. Thanks for watching, man. I'll see you next time. Hey, Miguel's on. Hey, dude. How are you, man? I think Top Table Gaming went to bed as well. Night, guys. Pretty sure it was Steve. I never actually saw the reply of which one it was. Steve or Ben. Only one of the two. Curse whoever talked about breakfast before. I am so hungry now. Alright. So, see what I've done there is I've created 4 dots, dotting down the pupil until I'm happy with the size. In fact, I'd probably like it a little smaller again. And now I'm just going to come in really carefully. Look at that, tiny little pupil. Very, very, very small eyes, these guys. That needs... What? Oh, seriously? Why is someone mowing the council lawn on the property across the road? Hope that's not in your audio. It's a Monday morning. I suppose that is Monday would do it. Alright, let's dot this pupil down. Okay, pretty happy with that. Oh, those pupils are awesome. I'm not sure how well that's going to read for you guys. I don't know what the minimum focal distance is, but there you go. You can see he's got some really dope little pupils. And now the eyes don't look as bright as crazy. In fact, I don't even need to wash them because the pupils have kind of taken up so much of the block of color. That guy is definitely the easiest. These other eyes are a bit smaller. There we go, 2 pupils. We're doing okay. Now this one will be the hardest of all. Alright, I will wash back the Hey, GB192 watching at 2 AM in Iceland. That is so cool. What's the temperature like in Iceland at the moment? Yeah, Tom, the dotting down is like a lifesaver. Basically, in case you guys weren't paying attention, you load up your brush with paint and then you go dot, 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 dot until you get to a dot size you're happy with. Then you take the paint off your brush, load it up again, and then go dot, 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 and stop just before you get to the size that you want, and then you dot on the model. It's just a little thing I don't know, worked out. Did some, I don't think I saw it anywhere. I think it was out of my own noggin. Just painting so many tiny Rohan eyes. It's amazing the techniques you come up with when you're painting Lord of the Rings stuff, because some of it is really small and not the best detailed from the early part of the range. New stuff's freaking amazing. Cool, so we're pretty happy with that. So we've got the eyes. In terms of a final shading stage, which I like to do, there's only one other thing before that, and that is the hair, and then we've got the base. Now, I think what I'm going to do for the hair is I'm just going to make some grey hair on these guys, but we can have a bit of an experiment. What kind of colour hair would you guys like to see? Holy dooly. 2 degrees in Iceland, which is apparently pretty warm, because it was -8 not that long ago. That is very cold. And look, I also haven't washed out my brush that I used to mix the flesh tone with, and now that is proper sodden. Proper sodden. Alright, we are almost done, and then it will be battle report time. What colour hair do you guys want to see? I'm thinking grey, blonde goblins, black, green, lots of options on there. I can tell you I'm not going to be doing purple, because I don't have any purple. My purple paint ran out. Otherwise, I would love to see purple Mandalore. Blonde, black, grey hair, old man goblins, dark grey. Alright, we're getting lots of votes for, liquid hand soap. Really? That's a cool idea. Here, I'm just like wrecking my bristles. That's a cool idea. Grey, that's my name. Done. Alright. Well, we'll start off with grey. So let's have a look at what greys we've got here. I'm just going to grab this Storm Vermin Fur, which sounds pretty good. This is quite a greeny grey, actually, so this will work pretty well. And I don't think we're going to do anything fancy here. I'm just going to grab a small dry brushing brush, and we're going to see what we can actually dry brush out of these details, because I'm not sure how much hair detail we're going to get here. The other thing I'm also going to do is hit the feathers with a bit of this grey. while I'm here. I'm being pretty loosey-goosey with this. I don't mind if the grey kind of gets a little bit on the brown or whatever. It's not the end of the world. Okay, grey goblin. Let's try a little bit of grey across the back of here. And, I mean, this guy's the guy with the hair, right? This guy's got so much hair, so we'll give that a little bit of grey. There we go, that looks quite good. I wouldn't imagine it's actually much brighter than that, but what I will do is I'll just grab a second grey, which is going to be... yeah, we'll use heavy blue grey. I'm not actually going to load this on the palette, because I don't want to bring extra moisture into the brush. I'm not even going to wash up my dry brushing brush, when I can find where I just put it. Where did it go? There it is. I'm just going to take some straight off the bottle. A little more than that. Yeah, I'll get it from inside the lid. Okay. Pull it all off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just trying to create a little highlight just to make the hair pop a little bit more. And if it feels crazy bright, that's okay, because Nuln Oil exists in the world, doesn't it? Beautiful. Just a tiny bit on the top of his head. Oh, I'll hit the feathers as well. Okay, some grey-haired goblins. There we go. Oh, I love that dude's eyes. Okay, so let's get the yellow out of here. That's done. Let's get the Reikland flesh shade out of here. That's done. So we have our eyes. They're done. Skin tone, done. Metal, done. Red cloth, brown cloth, done. Teeth. Now, what mouth details can we see? Just a little bit. So, what I was going to do was get some white scar, paint that down as if I'm re-priming the teeth, and then... Sorry, Brian, the feathers are on the arrows, the fletching. They're not wearing feathers, not like American Indian feathers. Geralt, them coppos. Someone's been watching The Witcher. I haven't started yet, no spoilers. Yeah, so I was going to put down some white on the teeth, essentially re-priming them, and then hit them with Skeleton Horde. I don't know if it's worth it, because there's not a whole lot of detail on the teeth. You can see a little bit. Obviously not on him, so he's done for teeth. Let's try it. Let's see if it works. So we'll grab a little bit of white scar, which is going to need to have the crap shaken out of it. Gonna make sure we don't have too much on our brush. So obviously the teeth look, he's got some pearly whites right now, but that's okay. The trick here is just keeping it to the teeth, not getting it on the roof of the mouth, not getting it on the lips, not mistaking the tongue for the teeth like I almost did on that Bowman there. And now we're going to wait for that to dry, and then I'm going to apply some contrast, some Skeleton Horde. I can't believe I've been streaming for 2.5 hours. This is crazy, and there's still 73 of you watching. Absolutely phenomenal. So I'm coming in with some Skeleton Horde, and then make sure the white's dry. I'm sure it will be. Now it's tricky because we want the Skeleton Horde to apply to the teeth pretty thickly, but we don't want to kind of leave too much goop to flow out onto the other areas of the skin. So we'll just pull off any extra, like I've got a little bit too much there. Yeah, the Skeleton Horde might not have enough of a color profile on such a short volume. I'll let that dry. What I might do is also hit that with a bit of Agrax Earthshade. Let's get these other gobbos just over here. I don't know where my missing gobbo is. Somewhere down in the workshop, obviously, from when I was basing this morning. Alright, so... Model's looking pretty good. We got eyes, we got teeth, we got hair. The final thing to do is to just give this guy a little bit of extra wash treatment. So what I'm going to do, just to give him, you know, just some extra kind of detail and really nice kind of, I guess, contrast, and really kind of show off the flatter parts of the model where we can. So I've grabbed some Null Oil. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm putting in shadows. I'm gonna put a little bit of this all over the fabric because I like the color. I'm not trying to darken it so much. I'm just trying to give it a little bit more contrast and tone because it's just a little bit flat. I'm happy with the metal. You could darken that if you wanted to, if you wanted it grimier again. I don't need to. Everywhere that's brown, this quiver, I'm going to get Null Oil. I'm going to put it on. The arrow shafts. Even a bit on the hair. The fabric, this leather kind of thing. Keep the Null Oil off the green. That's really the only thing you got to worry about. Just to give that fabric a little extra touch. Just a little bit more definition. Alright, we'll grab some more. We'll hit this guy. This is our red. Now you can do the Null Oil over the red. Null Oil on red looks amazing. It just gives it a little bit more shadow. A little bit of kind of extra definition. That was the word I was trying to think of before. I was like, what am I trying to say here? Definition. That's what we're trying to create. So I think 3 models is the sweet spot. I think this has been pretty good. Or like one, you know, a hero's obviously going to be painting 1 model, but like 1 of each kind of troop type, and then I might pre-paint the rest next time so we can film with painted models. Say that would be the way to do it. Has this painting section been too long? Would you have preferred me to just paint 1 and have the other 11 painted? You know, we've been painting together for probably an hour now, maybe more, maybe way more. You know, would you like me to compress this painting section a bit more? Or all we've got the rest in this stream is our little game, and then we've got some outro stuff to do, and of course the prize giveaway, which we still have to do. Hopefully Larissa has finished making the prize Wheel of Fortune thing. But yeah, we could probably shorten this up a little bit. This is, you know, this stream is very much guinea pig, so we could probably, I'd say we could quicken this up just a tad, because we don't need a 4-hour stream. I'd say 3 hours max is probably the sweet spot. And we're approaching that now. Cool, so then this guy's been washed, this guy's been washed. Last little wash here. This Spearman, make sure you get on the spear hafts. And then this is the darker guy who we didn't do any highlights on his brown. So his brown is really going to darken up, which I quite like. Yeah, no problem with that. I think it's going to look really good. I will give another wash to the chainmail, just so that it is really well defined. There's not as much cloth on this guy, is there? Cool. Just a little bit around his loincloth. Fantastic. Okay, that is our goblins finished. Pretty sure. Let me just look at them. Do I have to leave anything off? No, I think we're good. I think we're good. If you wanted to, you could do another flesh shade on the skin to darken them up, just to keep creating more definition. I might do that later, I'm not going to bother doing it now. Let's jump into our bases. Now the basing is a super quick thing. Essentially, we're just going to grab ourselves a series of graduated greys. We're going to hit Storm Vermin Fur, then we're going to wash the whole base in Agrax Earthshade, and then we're going to hit it with Heavy Blue Grey and Stonewall Grey. Now what I'm going to do in the interest of time is move the basing around and just do the wash at the end so that we're not waiting for it to dry and we can get on setting up for the next segment. But what we'll do here is we will grab ourselves up some Storm Vermin Fur. We're gonna be. This is all about dry brushing this one. So we just want to quite heavily dry brush all over the rocky detail, and you'll just see these resin bases absolutely come to life. Now you can be pretty pretty hardcore with the storm vermin fur. We want to be basically creating as much storm vermin fur as we can. We don't want too much black left. It's very much quite a heavy overbrush. Oh, dude, these bases look so good. Actually, haven't painted these yet. The Horselord Prairie. I've only done the other ones. Mountain Stronghold. So these are available at Zorpazorp.com. These gorgeous little resin bases. So if you guys want to, they're sort of designed to be used for Horselord Prairies. You know, whether that's related to any models that have come out right now, I don't know. But they're also really useful because they're just a shale composite. Basically, what they're designed to mimic a particular geographical formation in New Zealand, which may or may not have been a filming location for a movie, I don't know, whatever. And they've got, you know, it's just a really gorgeous type of, what's the type of rock? It's shale and schist. Shale and schist, and there's these amazing rock formations which just look phenomenal. And I saw them and I was like, they need to be bases. Yeah, they just look, they're really, really breathtaking. And look at those, they look at, so good. So we've built these bases. The original master sculpts are actually made from the same materials, shale and schist, which you don't often do when you're making bases in, you know, things in miniature scale, because you're trying to replicate real life stuff. But schist has such a great kind of tone and structure and sort of physical structure that when you pull it apart small, it still holds a similar sort of look. So yeah, we're really happy with these. Jacques Rogers, one of our lads, sculpted these, and then Glenn Lamprecht sculpted the Mountain Stronghold bases. Some of you might know Glenn Lamprecht from White Dwarf, or some of his painting works. He's won several Slayer swords and a Golden Demon, maybe a Golden Demon, I can't remember, I'll have to ask. So now we've done a dry brush, we're going to jump in and just keep on dry brushing. We're going to add a little bit of heavy blue-grey next. As you can see, I'm not loading the wet palette here because I want to keep all the moisture out of my brush, and I'm not even bothering, whoop, throwing my paints around, not even bothering. Oh, Larissa commented on the stream and then deleted the message. Larissa, what was that about? That's mildly, mildly concerning. I'm guessing a baby lent on the keyboard, probably. Alright, so we're going to come in and dry brush with our... what are we using? The heavy blue-grey from Vallejo. So this is just creating that upper kind of profile. It's just a nice graduated grey scream. Grey. Graduated grey scheme. There's nothing complicated going on here. This is just, yeah, really, really simple stuff. And yeah, traditionally I would have probably put the wash in first. But so what I'm doing to counter that, just so we don't have to wait for it, is I'm dry brushing more heavily with these top layers because I know they're going to be pushed back by the wash. Whereas you'd go a little bit lighter than I'm going when you're doing these final layers if you've put the wash down first. And then the final layer is just a very light dry brush of stone grey. That's more heavy blue grey, but I get the right paint. Of stone grey, which is a warmer, lighter grey. It's kind of moving us out of the cool space, and it just gives us the top highlight for all of those rocks. See, there you go. You can see it really pops, and you don't want that everywhere. You can pick a few spots. Don't put it directly under the model because that's where the shadow would be. So you know, we're just trying to create the illusion of a bit of sunlight hitting down on the model. I mean, obviously these guys are probably in the cave, so that's probably a really stupid thing to do. But maybe they're out on the prow of the gate to Moria, having a bit of a look. Oh, those look so good. I'm really happy with those bases. So now the final thing to do is the rim. And we're just going to grab some neat storm vermin fur. And apply that all the way around the edge. You can rim them in whatever you like. I'm not even going to go there. You can paint the rim of the base in whatever you like. You know, you can go the old school green. And I thought about it, right? I thought about doing it in the old school goblin green, a la the, you know, kind of battle games in Middle Earth greeny look, but I just can't stomach it. It looks really poxy, and I can't handle it personally. So I'm going for something that just looks good for these bases, which is, yeah, we're gonna go Storm Vermin Fur, and then once this is down, we will wash all of the bases, all of the base, including the rim, with some Agrax Earthshade, and then our 3 of 12 will be finished. That is looking really good. I quite like, because, I mean, a little interesting thing to talk about here is the grey profiles that we're using. We've got a green grey in this Storm Vermin Fur, a blue grey, aptly named Heavy Blue Grey, and then a bit of a warmer grey, a bit of a kind of yellowy grey in the stone grey. And you'd think that that wouldn't work, combining all of these different colour temperatures, but it creates a kind of really naturalistic sort of mishmash of color that feels quite realistic, which is cool. Usually, you know, I try and stick to the same space with my color profiles, but these are the grays that I have, so these are the grays that are getting used, and you know, it's working out all right, which I'm fairly happy about. So we will let those bases dry for a sec before we put the wash down, because we don't want to go spilling anything. Let's recategorize this messy little section here. I will just check on the teeth. Just make sure they turned out alright. Yeah, they look great. Yes, perfect. The I don't know, I should show you, shouldn't I? So we can see there that the teeth have come up really nicely on the dude. So we are almost finished. My spinny contraption is on the high chair when you need it. Oh, cool. Excellent. Excellent. All right, well, we won't need it for just a sec. So the painting is almost finished. We've got one little coat to go down. I'm just going to have a drink of water. There are still 78 of you watching. That's fantastic. Put it this way. You started at the end of one nap, and Hazel is now 21 minutes into her next one. So we have been painting a while, Larissa is saying. It's very true. That's good. This is a good little test. It's going to bum me out that I have another 9 of these goblins to paint this afternoon. I was supposed to be sleeping. But anyway, the things that must be done. The things that must be done. So, we are 2 hours and 45 minutes into the stream, and our goblins, 3 of them, are painted. So it will be very, very soon time to transition into the first battle report section, which will be quite cool, I must say. Yeah, pretty excited for that. Yes, I suppose watching on the phone would make it a little bit tricky, but don't worry, we're going to transition into some perfect phone watching content. Perfect phone watching content for the battle report shortly. So it should be good. But yeah, definitely for the painting stuff. But of course, this is all going to be uploaded. Yeah, I can do an extreme close-up. Let me swing on over. How cool is this? It's reactive. You ask something and then you do it. This is brilliant. So, let's see. Can I get that? Let's see. I don't know what the minimum focal distance is. Is that sharp? Can you guys tell me if that's sharp? The old 12-second delay. Sharp. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, so that's number 1. Yeah, we still have to wash the bases, but I'll just give you guys the detailed close-ups now to save that. Then we've got this little fellow. I'm really happy with this little guy because I love that kind of breast panel and his lovely helmet. The cloth is darker than the others because we didn't do the highlights, but I don't mind that for a bit of variation across the whole army. And then we have our little Bowmen guy as well. Pretty happy with these. Eyes. Again, I think I will wash the skin to give that a little bit. I will give the skin a little bit more shade because it needs a bit more juice. I'm really happy with this guy. I love his things. I love the grime on the shield. I've got to say, I'm liking the red fabric more. What do you guys like more? Let me sit them both in my hand. Let's grab the lighter brown. What fabric do you guys like more? The red fabric or the brown fabric? Spearboy flexing with that chestplate shine. He loves it. He probably shines and shines and shines. You like McGregor likes the red? We got red, rogue red. Okay, well, this is pretty unanimous. Well, in that case, I think what we might do is just make them all red, because we still have the brown elements in our strapping. We still, like, you know, this guy's just, there's a lot less kind of going on. It's all a bit too monotone, but we still have the brown in the spear halves, the strapping, the handles. So, yeah. Actually, genuinely impressed with the green tinged flesh color. Well, thank you, honey. I'm glad. I think, yeah, a little more shading, and it's going to look very, very good. But let's, those basing bits have dried now, so we'll throw down the final wash. So, brand new Agrax Earthshade here, so I'm going to give this a good shake. A good shake. Oh, Reddit. God, I didn't post the stream to Reddit. Oh, well. I'm sure they'll find it. If they see me on Reddit, they're usually subscribed. Alright, so we're going to just chuck down some Agrax. That is pretty dark. We might... Definitely on the rim. Wonder if I should Lamian medium some of this rock, some of this Agrax, because that's pretty... Full disclosure, I haven't actually applied Agrax last before. Usually I always put the top coat down. Well, I think what I might do is I'll just throw it down for now, but I will come back and give that another dry brush, just because it's, of course, it's tinting the top coats as well, which are, you know, losing their color. So I do want this wash there, because I want the dirt, I want the brown, I want the grime. But of course, those top coats are now going to be distorted by this wash, so that was a stupid thing to do. But it's fine. It will save us some time, and then off camera I can come back and touch up those top coats, which will be quite good. Let's chuck in a little bit there. You don't have to stress too much about the Agrax Earthshade. If it spills onto any other part of the model while you're doing this, it's going to look good. It's going to look good. It's Agrax, you know. You can put that anywhere. Just try and make sure it doesn't pull too heavily around the base rim, although a little bit of pooling actually gives it a fair bit of kind of interest. It looks pretty cool. So yeah, don't stress if it pulls crazy, but just don't make sure it's not too radical, basically. Oh, bloody cat hair. Franklin. I think it was Rosie, actually. It was dark. There we go. You also don't need to wash the entire thing. You can make it sort of splotchy, so that it's almost like a little bit of a leopard spot effect, if you guys are familiar with that particular method of painting. Alright, those bases look fantastic. I don't know why I was doubting myself. I'll give them a little top dry brush when they're finished, but that is them all done. So, it is time to swing ourselves over into battle report mode. So I will go and set up the gimbal and fly on in, and we will be back quite shortly. I will leave you with a question while I'm gone, which I'm going to steal mercilessly from Rogue Jedi. Nuln Oil or Agrax Earthshade? What is the best shade? We will come back and see what the user results are. Back very soon. Alright, we are back. So, we can see we have gone to gimbal mode. That's right, we are live streaming on a gimbal. Check this shit out. This is our little board here that we've got. We've got Aragorn here in the middle. It's just a little small board for a small little intro scenario. Now, I haven't set the goblins up because I don't actually know what the scenario is. So let's have a little look. You know what, the easiest way to do this will be to throw the camera back down. Like so. And then I'll come in here with you guys. This is all a big bloody experiment, isn't it? So, let's go to the actual scenario in my poor squashed copy. Alright, the Goblin Ambush. A tabletop gaming scenario determines the setting and combatants for a battle, along with the objectives for both sides. Alright, we don't need to read all that. So our combatants are Aragorn and 12, although we're playing with 11 because I lost one. 11 Moria Goblins. Aragorn, let's read the character profiles, listen to this stuff. Aragorn, also known as Strider, is the last descendant of Elendil and the last heir to the throne of Gondor. His rough and weather-hewn appearance speaks of a hard life spent battling evil in wild places. Let's hunt some orc. And the Moria Goblins, these small, mean-spirited creatures, live a troglodyte existence in the numerous passages beneath the misty mountains. Little hat tilt to the excellent vocabulary there of Rick Priestley. The ancient dwarf tunnels of Moria have become home to these loathsome monsters. So I don't know where we are today. We're obviously, we're calling it now. One goblin will be the deciding factor. Maybe we'll make one goblin run in from the edge, just so that we don't ruin the very precarious balance of this scenario. So, I don't know where we are. We're on the outskirts of Moria, I think. Okay, so how to play. We've got, you know, the move, priority, it all looks the same. We've got a 60 by 60 gaming area. We're playing on something slightly modelled, slightly different today. It might seem an uneven fight, but we're using simplified rules for the game. If we use the full rules for Aragorn, he would massacre them. That's very true. So the move phase is the same. Aragorn moves 6, the Gobos move 5. The shoot phase, let's have a look at this. So the Goblin bows are only 8 inches of range. That was good English. And Aragorn's is 24. And they say, for now, we're going to ignore in-the-way rolls. So basically, the Goblins can auto-hit into combat and not accidentally kill their own guys. So when shooting, Aragorn's bow needs a 5 to wound a Goblin, but the Goblins need 6s to wound with their Goblin bows. Alright, well, that's interesting. Let's have a look. So 5s and 6s. Oh, what are they hitting on? That's a good point. It doesn't say. Oh, here we go. So the Goblins are hitting on 5s, Aragorn's hitting on 3. So that's all normal. There's no moving and shooting penalties. And then the fight phase is also very simplified. We've got basically, in the fight phase, all models in base contact must fight. To do this, the evil side rolls a dice for each Goblins, and Aragorn and picks the highest. And Aragorn always rolls 3 and picks the highest. The two sides then compare their best scores, and the one with the highest is the winner, and in a draw, Aragorn loses. So that is totally standard. Everyone backs away an inch, so we do have backing away, even in, 0.5 edition SPG. That's good. If Aragorn wins the fight, he always rolls 3 dice. It's generally easier to wound an enemy in close combat than with bowfire. Moria Goblins need a 5 to score a wound, and Aragorn needs a 4. So that's basically it. There's no courage. There's no extra business. Good versus evil. Basically, if you score 3 wounds on Aragorn, evil wins major. If there's no wounds, good wins major, and then minor split either side. Now, where is deployment? Have I skipped deployment? I think I have. Okay, here we go. So Aragorn starts on one side, and the 4 goblins start on the other. So let's deploy those. We'll grab our little board here. So Aragorn starts over here. And then we have... Whoop! Excellent. Oh, a sandwich has been made for me. How excellent. Let's try and reset that gimbal. Alright. We nearly lost the gimbal there. We may have lost the gimbal. Okay. We're going to reset. Let's turn this bad boy off. What on earth has happened here? Alright, un momento, por favor, guys. I will be back. Alright, sorry about that, guys. I've decided to do away with my headphone cord, which just absolutely massacred my gimbal, and got quite wildly tangled inside the gimbal. Essentially, I'm running a HDMI cord from the camera whilst holding the gimbal, so it's kind of like unbalancing it. And then I'm also... Oh, let's at least stand in front of my nice background. Oh, pretty. So, let's get into it. Sorry about that. We were deploying some goblins! That's what we were doing, without the pesky headphone cable. So we've got 4 goblins that are sitting over here. There we go, that's how I did it, trying to reach too far to the left. We've got 4 goblins here. We're going to just do a mix, and then we'll have... Look at that. Oh, it's magical. It's magical. Look at that, I can even set it up as a tripod while I deploy. Beautiful! And then we've got 4 goblins up the back here. Very nice. We'll put, what do we got here? We've got a 2 with bow. Goblin just fell off the table. And then we have our 3 beautifully painted goblins up the back here. So, we are now 2 goblins down, unless I can dig that goblin out. No, he's down there for good. So now we're playing with 10 goblins. And we'll have 2 that have to come back. So it's pretty simple. We've got a lovely little setup here with Aragorn and some gobbos and things. Let's do priority. We're going to have Aragorn is going to be on the Rohan dice, and the gobbos are going to be using the new Isengard dice. Alright, let's see how we go. Priority. And it is with Aragorn first. Now, Aragorn, I mean, he's just going to probably sit and use his... use his bow while he can. So, I mean, see, this is the thing. Aragorn, I don't think there's any rules that say he can't move and shoot. I don't think there's any rules. We're playing like crazy. He's moving and shooting. So what Aragorn, I don't want to fight them all at once, right? And I don't want to kill the painted ones because they look nicest. So, now we'll play the half move and shoot rule. I'm going to move half with Aragorn over here. And now switching sides to move Goblin Land. Now we need to get these... Oh, now... I mean, we know they have spears, so I think we'll allow supporting, but it's clearly not meant. I think the goblins are going to need all the help they can get. So I'm going to run 5 inches over there, 5 inches over there, and then this goblin, he's going to move 3 inches there. I'll just check if he has line of sight there. He can see Aragorn. And then with these bad boys over here, we'll do the same thing. They've got... I've never actually used these like measurers before, but I absolutely think they're brilliant while live streaming, right? Because I don't have time to dig around with a tape measure. 5 inches, and then this guy's going to move 3 up there to have another shot at Aragorn. Apologies that we aren't playing with fully painted models. That would be... Imagine the writers of this scenario finding out about Lockie using SBG-specific dice. Yes, their minds would have been absolutely blown. Alright, well, it's the shooting phase. Aragorn has priority, and he is going to take a shot, and I don't feel like getting shot. So Aragorn is going to shoot at this pesky orc. He needs 3s to hit. Oh, strong start, Aragorn. Big one, he misses. The gobbos will return fire. There are only 2 bowmen, because I guess the other one that fell off the table was a bowman. They've both got shots, they're hitting on 5s. Okay, well, strong start for shooting, guys. Let's have a look at priority. And it goes to Moria. Big swing. Alright, here goes Aragorn. I mean, to be honest, I probably didn't even need to move him at all. But that's okay. Alright, Moria, you're up. Where's my measurer gone? I've already lost it. There it is. I'm not going to be in charge range, because the goblins only move 5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this guy in here, and then I'm going to throw them in support. And then if Aragorn wants to charge, he can. And then everyone else is going to be more than 6 inches out of range. So that Aragorn's only choice is to fight the 2 models who are, you know, going to be able to lend 2 attacks to each other. And then we've got these lads here. Might throw my measurer down because I'm pretty bad at bucket moving 5 inches. Oh, you know what? That bowman will drop back as well. Oh, he's never going to have a shot. He's never going to have a shot. Okay, Aragorn, we've got a choice. Now, of course, I was setting it up so Aragorn will be forced to charge 2 models, but... Okay, guys. Here's a decision for us. Tell me what you want me to do. Should Aragorn sit still and shoot while he's got, you know, the time, or should I take the opportunity to fight two guys at once? Because that's probably something I can win and potentially kill them before I'm fighting 12 guys at once. Because there is, you know, there's not a lot of guys here. Head on, shoot. All right, we've got one charge. All right, so 2 for charge, 1 for shoot. 2 for charge, 1 for shoot. Any more, guys? Come on. The 2. All right, it looks like we're charging. We're absolutely charging. Aragorn's putting away the bow, and he's going to go in. Obviously, because there's a supporting position there. I tell you what, I'm going to charge. No, we'll charge from that side. I'm going to get surrounded no matter what happens. Okay, first turn of combat. Oh, 3 dice for Aragorn, 2 dice for the goblins. Oh no! Oh, big 6 to the goblins. They've got it. All right, they need 5s to wound him in combat. 2 3s, no luck. Aragorn survives his first inevitable fluff. Classic Aragorn. All right, so the gobbo's back away. Now this is going to be an important priority because I might be able to stop Aragorn from getting trapped. No, I'm not. A big 6. Big 6. All right, let's play this smart. Everyone who can't support. Oh, look at that. Would you? Yeah. I think 5 attacks is enough for Aragorn. Maybe we won't use supports. All right. These guys will. They'll just all move up, and they'll move. What's 5 over here? God, this might be a short game. The 3 painted guys are just going to be like watching on by the time Aragorn gets massacred. Yes, I think you might be right, Mike. This could be a very quick death for Aragorn. We need a 6 here. We need a strong 6. I didn't bring enough Moria dice up. I was like, oh, there's no way I'll ever be fighting with 5 at once. So the Moria have 1 extra dice. Aragorn needs a 6 here. Oh, dear. A 1, a 3, and a 4. Oh, dear. And then, of course, they had 1 more dice, which was a 5. So, we'll steal 1 of Aragorn's dice. Now, there's no rules for trapped. So 5's to wound. Oh, he's alive! He's alive! Thank goodness, or this would have been the shittest battle report ever. He's still alive. He's on 2 wounds. Sorry, he's taken 2 wounds. He's on 1 wound. Goodness me. Alright, big priority. A 4 still goes to the goblins. They charge back in. And then, you know, these guys are just looking pretty. At this point. Come on, Aragorn, stop embarrassing yourself. The goblins have 1 more dice. I get the 6! Aragorn gets the 6. Okay, so we have 3 attacks. We need 4s to wound. We have to kill some of these goblins or we are screwed. Oh, that was not a good start. A 3, a 2, and a 6. Aragorn has lost 1 wound. And 1 goblin is dead. We're gonna take this guy. That is absolutely nuts. Okay, well, it's looking tough, but at least we killed somebody. Aragorn went down with a small fight, not much of one. Priority for turn number 3. Oh, it goes to Aragorn. Okay, so this is important. I'm being very lazy now. These guys should have all backed away. Now I need to set this up in such a way. See, this is going to be very tricky here. What I need to do... Now, obviously, control zones and stuff probably don't really exist in this game, and maybe for the sake of Aragorn, we should really lean into that. That's a really good idea. Let's go. Aragorn's out of here. Full 6 inches, all the way up the other end. Screw control zones. They mean nothing. And then this goblin's going to be able to get in. This goblin's going to be able to get in, and that's it. Aragorn has found himself in a little spot of safety here. This is doable. Let's move these guys back around here, 5 inches. They're gonna set up for the trap. I'm guessing those guys might die, so we'll move those lads around there, and I might send 1 there, and I'll send 1 up there as well. All right, there's hope. There's hope. No, Brian, Aragorn wins on a tie. Absolutely wins. Yeah, it's like mimicking the fight value, basically. Okay, Aragorn fighting 2. Oh yes, it's all coming up Aragorn now. Needing 2 4s to kill those 2 goblins. 1 4. Alright, so that is 2 goblins dead. Now, of course, I have killed 2 goblins, and there's supposed to be 2 more. So these 2 goblins are going to... we won't say that they can deploy from this edge, because that would be terrible. But what we might do is we'll just start them... we'll just walk them on. Sod it. Aragorn needs the help. We'll just walk them on from the back there. So, priority... Oh, it's a 6. And another 6, but Aragorn had it first. And that is big, that is big. So what we're going to do here is this guy's going to charge around, this guy's going to charge around, and Aragorn is going to find himself fighting 4 once more. Very tough times. But that's okay, he's been rolling the 6s lately. We'll bring these guys in here. So where's 5 inches? I love this little sword, I've got to paint it up. So 5 inches is there. 5 inches is there and there. I won't be able to fit. Now I'm actually going to go this side with these guys. And these 2 are just going to run all the way over here. Move the dead goblin on from one of the board edges. Yeah, that's what we did. That's what we did. I thought it would, I was thinking they'd be able to come from any board edge, but Aragorn needs help, man. Okay, the fight phase. There's not much shooting going on, I must say. I think maybe the goblins are supposed to be able to shoot into combat, actually. That's potentially a thing. But anyway, so 4 goblins, 1 Aragorn. Aragorn gets the 6. Needing 4s, needing 4s. Oh, jeez, the killing is just not happening for Aragorn. 1 dead, and that is the first actual dead goblin. Because of course I killed the other 2, but they came back to life. All right, backing away, goblins. Priority. Oh. A 3. It goes to Sir Aragorn. Okay, so obviously there's a huge cluster of dudes over here. So I think what I got to do is use my full move. I'm just kiting these guys basically. We're gonna run away from him. 3 inches, 3 inches. All right, now the goblins in return will be able to throw this guy over here. And Aragorn's going to be fighting 2. So a full 5 inches only gets them to there. These guys, the painted ones, they've been just chasing their tails backwards and forwards. I think I need to split up more. So let's send L painted. This one's called Steve. And these guys are going to go 2 inches and 3 inches. And yeah, we'll do the same with him actually. So like I'm kind of funneling. I'm encircling Aragorn. But we've got another fight. This one's in Aragorn's favour. This one is big time in Aragorn's favour. 3 dice, 2 dice. Oh, the goblins get the 6. Now they need 5s to win in close combat. 1 5 and Aragorn dies. Oh, 2 5s. 2 5s. Just to rub it in, Aragorn gets utterly crushed in an even more crushing victory. That is absolutely savage. Well, bad luck, Aragorn. Let's have a look at the aftermath in our little book here. So we'll jump into our objective page. Winning the game. Aragorn, wounds suffered by Aragorn. Well, he suffered 4, so that is an evil major victory. There we go. And that is pretty much the end of our Battle Games in Middle Earth stuff. We've got, there is one other little, one other little section that they do have in the back, which is called Making a Basic Battlefield. And they basically just cover, this is after the painting of the goblins, they cover the kind of whole, easy way to build something simple at home with books under a cloth and all that kind of stuff. And then they show a few examples of some really nice kind of dream battlefields, and then that is pretty much the end of issue number 1. And then issue number 2, we can see what is coming in a fortnight. Look at this, we got heaps of good stuff. So number 2 is the Elves and the Númenóreans, which is going to be interesting. So 2 painting schemes, 2 painting tutorials in 1 video. And then pack number 3, we've got our first hero focusing on Frodo, and there's a really, really fantastic scenario in that one. yeah, the terrifying ring wraiths pursue Frodo, so we get to use some ring wraith action. I've got some gorgeous ring wraiths I need to get painted up for Arda anyway. And then we have the fighting Urukai in pack number 4, so lots of stuff to look forward to. Let me spin that camera around. Alright. Oh, you're seeing all the mess, you're seeing the behind the scenes. That's not how this is meant to work. Straight to 35 mil, quick, don't show them. Alright, look, we're back, and everything's beautiful. Yay! Let me grab that. Oh, it'd be nice if I was in focus, though. How good would that be? That'd be swell. What's going on there? Hey, look at that. The old touchpad focus. What is happening? Would you be in focus, please? Oh, alright, give me 1 second. It's driving me crazy. Alright, we're back. Sorry about that. Note to self, just reset the studio properly instead of trying to do it on the fly and showing you guys all the secret mess behind me. Up until this point, I'm sure you thought it was all so neat. So, that is the end of the battle report section, and now we have one little final thing to do for our outro, which is, of course, to set up our giveaway for the Patreon, for our Patreon live stream. Now, if Larissa is still watching, this will be the time when she conveniently brings in the Wheel of Fortune giveaway wheel. We'll see. I'll have to wait 40 seconds to see if I have to go get it myself. But essentially, for those of you who tuned in late, with the way that the Patreon... Oh, I hear footsteps. Larissa, are you bringing the wheel? Hey... Wheel of Fortune! Alright, so we'll get into that in a sec. So, essentially, the way that the Patreon giveaway system works is that for anyone who's subscribed to our Patreon, any pledge, doesn't matter if you're pledging $1 or $20 like some of our amazing Mega Zorptron supporters, you are in the draw to potentially be assigned the troops that we painted today, and not just the 3 goblins that I got done, but all 12 of the goblins will be given away to one of our Patreons at random. So, can I buy a Val? Yes. Many Wheel of Fortune jokes will be made over the course of this live stream, I think. So, essentially, the way that the sponsorship works is the models get assigned to that particular Patreon, and then they get to follow their journey through the campaign, and each kind of release of models usually stays around for maybe 20 magazine episodes, and then at the end of their journey, after, you know, half a year, maybe a year of live streaming, we will retire those models because they no longer appear in any live streams, and then we will post them out to you anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter if you're in Europe or the UK or America or here in Australia, anywhere, and you'll get to keep those 12 special models, and we might even do a few little special things to them over the course of their journey as well, to, you know, if they have any heroic accolades, like maybe we should get Aragorn's head and just put them on one of the spears. You know, we'll see how we go, but we should do some pretty cool stuff like that, I think. So, without further ado, there are 61 people watching. I would love so much if it was one of the Patreons. Let's explain how the giveaway works. So, we have the Wheel of Fortune. Now, it's supposed to look like this, with everyone's names really clear. However, this morning we ran out of ran out of label maker, so everyone's names are there, but some of them are handwritten in Larissa's writing. Now, there are 24 of these things. If we roll on the red, if we roll on the orange, it is a jackpot, and they're not given away this week. They get saved up and they go to next week. And then for all the other ones, there are a bunch of names on each row, and then once we've got our row, we'll roll a dice to decide which one of the 6 names. So what could happen is it could land in your row and you could feel very excited, and then I'll take it away from you and give it to someone else. We'll see how we go. So let me widen this camera angle up a little bit. Here, we'll get a big juicy close-up. 1 second. Oh, I've got so much crap everywhere. I've got mics and things and all the things. Okay, let's punch out a little bit there, and we'll zoom down on the wheel. Zoom out a bit more. All right, we can see the wheel. I suppose we only need to see the top. Okay, here we go. We are spinning the wheel. So whoever this lands on, that is our row, and then we will roll a dice to see who wins our first giveaway. That was so satisfying. Okay, well, it landed in a blank space, so we're not going to jackpot it because it wasn't the orange one. We're just going to re-roll it. Oh, here we go. All right, we're in row 6. Row 6. So we have... Oh, we've got some familiar names here. James Carver from New Zealand. Maxi Clace from France. All right, a couple of good lads here. I mean, I'm sure you're all good lads. I just know a few of them, so this will be quite funny. And now we have a D6... And I better show this to you on camera so it feels authentic. This is the... Oh, well, how on earth am I going to do this? Preparation. Am I right, guys? So we need this. So, the names of the potential winners are row 6, Max Clace. Maxi, if I'm not saying your name right, because I can't speak in French, apologies. Maxi, Zach Madison, Douglas Moore, James Carver, and Demetrius Vulgarelis. That's an awesome name, dude. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. Let's see. So, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names on a 6. We will re-roll. And I will show you guys after the roll. Yeah, I might be able to pan down. I'm going to get more efficient at this. This is messy. All right, here we go. Here we go. It is number 4, which is... 1, 2, 3, 4. James Carver! James Carver, you are our first... panning up. Our first Patreon giveaway winner. That was a good sentence. Goes to James Carver. You will be winning yourself 12 Moria Goblins. You are now their official sponsor, and from henceforth they shall always be known as James's Moria Goblins. So congrats, bro. Welcome. You are the very first of a chain of many to receive the wonderful sponsorship responsibility. It's not just a prize. You have to barrack for these goblins. You have to feel attached to them. You have to be emotionally invested in their journey. They've killed Aragorn. I mean, these aren't no random goblins. These are some special bloody goblins killing Aragorn, and not just killing him, just like absolutely messing him up, jabbing their little knives in there, and then he kind of limped away. They pursued pretty hard, and he fended them off. There were a few nice parries. There were a couple of riposts. I think he killed 3. And then they killed him. They just like cut his head off and dealt him an extra 2 wounds. So they are some pretty special goblins. Well done, James. At the conclusion of their journey, after your barracking and your support, and the sponsorship concludes, they will be retired. I think the goblins finish up in issue 20 or 25. I can't quite remember. And then we'll send them out to you no matter where you are in the world. Although I'm pretty sure I know where you are in the world, so I might even be able to deliver them in person, actually. I'm heading over there for a honeymoon next year. We'll see if we get them finished. All right, cool. Well, what an awesome little live stream. Oh, yes, we'll have to name them. Guys, before we go, what's your... let me fix this camera here. Got too much crap. No, bad camera. Ugh. There we go. What are our recommendations, guys? Just looking at the chat here. What are we thinking for names? We've got We've got Steve. Yeah, well, we could call them all Steve. That's true. What have we got? You guys are talking way too fast than I can catch up. 12 Gibbons. Yes, true. James is now the owner of Steve. I've really got to stop calling everyone Steve. Every Patreon's models will just be different profiles, but all called Steve. And Barry gets a talking to as well. He appears fairly regularly in my referential names. So yes, no, he gets all 12. It's not one model per Patreon. That would be kind of random and not really useful either. You know, if everyone's getting like one goblin, what are they going to do with that? But like 12 goblins, that's something a bit more, you know, a bit more valuable. And you know, we're going to be doing this every fortnight, and we eventually we will hope to do this weekly. We'll see how we go. You know, if I can afford to take the time out of the rest of my week and you know, do less commissions and that sort of stuff. So yes, he will get all 12 of the goblins sent over. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, just from a cost point of view, if I was to send 12 different people one goblin, that would cost me like, you know, it's probably going to cost me like $80 to send anything to Europe. So, or maybe not that much, maybe like 50. If I was sending one goblin, it's still like $50. So I couldn't afford that, unfortunately. But 12 goblins to all over in the world in a year's time. It should be good. So, let me scroll down this chat and catch up with you guys. Yeah. Kronk, allspice, Bruce times 12. I like it, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me here on the official Battle Games in Middle Earth Zorpazorp live stream. This was a hell of a lot of fun. We've been streaming for exactly 3 hours and a half. That was English. 3.5 hours now, which is amazing. I am absolutely so hungry. Yeah. Really hungry, but also like we still have 64 people watching. We had like 100. We had 84 people watching pretty consistently for like, you know, the first sort of pretty much 2.5 hours. But we only really had a bit of a drop off there at the end. It's because all the Europe and the UK guys went to bed. So as I sort of chatted throughout the stream, this stream is going to be sort of 2 hours earlier usually to help you guys in the UK and yeah, so it's, this went so well. I'm so happy. It wasn't a complete disaster. Apparently the quality was good for you guys. If you have any suggestions or advice on different things you'd like to see in terms of like, you know, should I make the painting section shorter? Should I make the, should I, you know, have, obviously we will have longer battle reports. Basically it will be shaped by each different live stream because the content based off the magazines, you know, like the painting tutorial for Frodo will probably be a bit shorter, but that battle report will be like, you know, an hour of battle report. So and then conversely, Warriors of Numenor and stuff, that will be a little more chill because we'll probably just paint one of each and then get into a big game, and I'm pretty sure that's like, you know, goblins versus Men of Numenor and that sort of thing. So it's going to be good. I'm going to, you know, make sure I try and get sharper on everything, have all the gear working perfectly. I mean, we didn't have any major malfunctions, just a slight camera misbehaving because I got my headphone tangled in a gimbal, which I think is pretty small considering, you know, I thought YouTube might like explode or something. Live streams are scary. It's a big unwieldy beast. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Any suggestions, leave them down in the comments. I don't know what happens to this live chat. I don't know if that like disappears. Let me just check you guys aren't asking any extra questions before we go. What's the date? Right, when's the next one going to be? So, basically these will be fortnightly. They'll be every second Monday. However, the next Monday we'll move it to Tuesday because that's the Monday after Ardor Unleashed. And that will be absolutely insane. I'll be packing down the venue and I'll still have like 12 guys and girls from Melbourne and Sydney and New Zealand staying at my house, and they fly out on Monday afternoon. So I am tempted to get all 12 of them on the live stream, but we also have to go and pack down the venue and pack down all the boards, which is going to be, for those of you who don't know what Ardor Unleashed is, that's our big year opening event that I run here in Brisbane, Australia. So it'll be, I can tell you the date right now. It will be, I mean, I should know the dates for Ardor Unleashed off the top of my head, but I'm just going to double check for you. So it will be Tuesday the 14th will be the next live stream. But as always, I'll throw up a notice card. I'll put it in community. I'll post it on our groups. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I'll make sure I haven't left any of you guys. Oh yeah, Happy New Year to everyone too. So happy we got this done in 2019. We got one. So yeah, we'll have the first one will be in 2020 in the next decade. The decade of Amazon Lord of the Rings. Exciting. All right, cool, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Zorpazorp Gaming. And now I have to work out how to turn off the stream. Do I do that from here or do I do that from YouTube? End stream. I found a big red button that says end stream. That looks like the way to go. Thanks, guys. This has been an absolute blast. I will see you next time right here on Zorpazorp Gaming. Yes, I'm sure I want to end the stream. It's too many. Goodbye.